I would rather be handsome for an hour than pretty for a week. Tilda Swinton. Ladies, gentlemen, and variations thereupon. This is Modern Escapism. Hello and welcome to this celebratory episode of the podcast. My name is Oodles and today I am joined by Little Miss Sunshine, it's Gadget.
What? How dare you?
Pretty
I'm
Woman.
a miserable bastard and you know it.
Pretty Woman, it's Stig.
Hello.
The Devil Wears Prada, it's Candy Machine.
Hello.
Showgirls, it's Biggie. And we have a very special guest on the show this week. Renowned film journalist and author of the book Women vs. Hollywood and the Ultimate Superhero Movie Guide. It's Helen O'Hara. Round of applause.
Hey.
Hello.
Hello, everybody. Before we chat, we've got to do some corporate shilling, haven't we, Stick?
Oh, yes, we do. So if you like what we do, you can get more if you head over to patreon.com/modern escapism. On there, you'll find the 3 different tiers that we do. First up is Modern Escapees. For £5 a month, you can get extended editions of this episode every week, as well as at least one monthly special and every other special that we do. If you are into Dungeons & Dragons, we do a D&D actual play podcast called Do Dragons Dream of Scorched Sheep. The £5 Scorched Sheep tier will get you ad-free early access of that podcast, as well as any artwork, original music, character sheets, and anything we put together for the show. And you can suggest NPC and item names for Gadget to use against us. But if you're feeling flush, £7.50, the Biggie bundle, that gets you everything.
And what a deal it is. What a deal it is. Everyone should be getting the Biggie bundle. But we've dragged Helen here and we're just going to get her to do what we do every week. And this part of the podcast is where we just literally chat about what we've been doing this week. And I believe, Stig, you've probably not done the most. So I'm going to start with you. Have you done anything?
No, other than I went to London to visit some friends and got very drunk, so my voice is a bit croaky. Mm-hmm. But actually, I'd like to talk about Helen's book, if that's okay.
Oh, yes. Look at this. Synergy.
That is actually the one thing I did this week, was I finished the book, but I cheated a little and got the audio book.
Yep, which book is this?
The Women vs. Hollywood.
Ah.
So, yeah, I can't read very fast, so I was just like, there's no chance I'll get to read through this as quick as Gadget can do it. So I'll just listen to Helen tell me the book instead.
Yeah, just be off the bat, just a bit critical about the book first. Now, I just want to say there's a lot of women in it.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I did express doubts about that to my editor, and she seemed to think it'd be okay. But yeah.
You shouldn't bury the lead with the title.
No, I just want to say, like, I found it a really great book. It was brilliantly researched, well written, and very sensitive in places, and it was enjoyable to listen to. Like, I've obviously been listening to the Empire podcast for several years now, so I'm used to listening to you every week. But
well, I'm so sorry for everything.
But yeah, it just, obviously some of the stories in history were less enjoyable to hear about, unfortunately.
Yeah, mind blown, I have to say.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff in there that I didn't know about, to be honest. Obviously, the fact that the industry seemed to start with prominent women, and like came from a lot of women doing producer roles and film roles and even like stunt roles and stuff.
I loved hearing about the stunt roles. It sounded like they had such an absolute blast.
Me too. I mean, honestly, I sort of knew the very broad outlines of, the silent era and even some parts of the early studio era, because, I've got a sort of good film knowledge, but it's kind of generalist and all over the place and just depends on which bios I've picked up over the years and whatever else. So, So actually focusing down and doing that research was eye-opening for me as well. And yeah, the stunt women in those action serials in the 1910s, literally 100 and more years ago, were just unbelievable. They were jumping off and onto trains and taking rope ladders out of hot air balloons and, fighting wild animals. And it's just amazing stuff. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I'm sure with literally no health and safety guidelines.
Oh, no.
That's what I was going to mention,
Less than none, yeah.
Tom Cruise, eat your heart out.
Yeah. But yeah, obviously, if you, not to spoil too much of the book for people who are going to listen to it, obviously once the money men realised, actually we could make some money off of this, it kind of became a male-centric boys' club.
Yes. Yeah, the ownership of the studios had over the stars.
Yeah.
It was kind of referred to as, like you say, again, in general knowledge, but until you have someone dive into it, and the things that you covered just absolutely blew my mind about, preventing them from having relationships, abortions, just the whole, just this image thing that you obviously still
it's
hear
pushed
about
under the
way
rug,
now.
isn't it? That's the thing. It's horrible to see.
I have to say that's the section that stuck with me the most as well. Just absolutely. I mean, we shouldn't be shocked because you do hear about it, but just to hear the extremes to which it went, just sickening.
The extent of it, is astonishing. And some people really, really suffered for it. I mean, I think it was Gloria Swanson nearly died following a botched abortion because they were all illegal at the time. So it's not only that the studios were forcing them to have abortions or pressuring them at least into it. It was super illegal. So it was all under the carpet, under the rug, and no kind of safety measures whatsoever. It was horrific stories. And it was all because of these morality clauses in the stars' contracts that they had to keep hold to in order to keep their careers going, because the studios were so terrified that the government would come in and censor them all, basically. Mad stuff.
Yeah, there's a few, really, but the story about Patricia Douglas is just especially shocking. Obviously, what's kind of happened over the last few years, you'd hope that if anything like that happened, that it would never get brushed under the carpet like it did back then now. But one thing what I did really like about it as well was because it's new. You've touched on a lot of things from the last few years as well.
Yeah.
So sometimes with these books, it's just about the history of Hollywood, but you've actually talked about what's going on now, pretty much well up to the end of last year, really.
Yeah, pretty much. And I think there was a couple of tiny things we even have changed now for the paperback coming out next year. So it'll be as up to date as we can make it. But that was kind of important to me because I wanted to my pitch for the book was basically to kind of understand why we're in the situation we're in, why we're in the situation where, in a very good year, 12% of the top directors are women. In a really good year.
Wow.
And usually it's between 4 and 8%. It's about the same percentage. It's about 12 to 15% of movie leads are female, because that also is massively male dominated. Composers and cinematographers, even worse. They are about 4 to 6% in a really good year of composers and cinematographers. So why on earth is this? These are not jobs that involve, heavy lifting and growing a beard.
Yeah.
There's no reason that a lot of women couldn't do them. Except that is the system that we've set up, and that's the kind of mental image we have in our heads of what a director looks like and what a cinematographer looks like and everything else. And until we kind of dismantle that image and dismantle that sort of unconscious bias, I think things won't fully change. And I think, we're in the very, very early stages of trying to begin to do that, really.
Yeah.
There you go.
And it was obviously yourself working in the film industry, extended from the film industry and stuff, touching on things like social media, and I've seen the kind of shit that you've had to put up with from a certain group of Snyder fans.
I wasn't going to mention them. No, there are certain fandoms that are more fervent, shall we say, than others, and maybe more aggressive. I will say one of the people I talked to, one of the other journalists I talked to, said that her worst abuse came from the Outlander fandom. So it's not it's not only male-led fandoms. I do want to be honest about that. It's not only the male-dominated fandoms, but it is mostly the male-dominated fandoms where, if you every other female critic I know who had in any way said anything negative about, for example, Joker, had just a tsunami of abuse.
Yeah.
I did every time you brought up Joker, there was always a little appendices at the bottom, a footnote at the bottom going, Joker sucks. Stuff like that.
I'll say it now, as a man, Joker is shit.
Thank you.
It's shit.
Yes,
It's shit.
It's shit. I
It's
felt
shit.
like the entire world was gaslighting me when that came out. It's like, it's not good. Guys.
I think it had a decent end. That's it.
I liked the score and the cinematography.
It's a film I've not retreaded and bear in mind I have got bad taste. I've watched Zack Snyder's Justice League 4 times.
As you keep reminding us, and we keep lambasting you for
And
it, you fool.
it's not that I liked it. I just got a trial.
Wanted your money's worth out of an TV subscription.
I have watched it twice because we're planning, and we still haven't done, but we're planning an Empire spoiler special on it. I took 24 pages of notes. Let me see if I can find them here. There's a lot of capital letters.
Yeah, there is in mine.
It's very much like my notes.
Yeah. We did a very similar thing, and wow.
Yeah, we did a spoiler special, didn't we? Like,
Wow.
when it came out, 'cause it's like we talked about it so much about if this is coming out now, and we should really do a spoiler special. Yeah, I think I had about 15, 16 pages on my phone. Yeah, it was.
As we've said many times, poor dead DC.
Most of my notes for that film was screaming.
Yeah.
With the book, there were a couple of parts of it that really stuck out to me for different reasons. One, I really liked the chapter about the male gaze and kind of like how women are generally treated over the years, but also how their kind of image is treated, and how like even down to like kind of where cameras are placed and such like that.
Yeah.
And as I was reading through it, I kept thinking back because me and Biggie are doing a Patreon series at the minute on the Fast and Furious films.
Oh my god!
And you even mentioned it. In there.
We haven't seen them, so this is new to us. We
You're
somehow
kidding.
avoided it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we keep just seeing these hot pants shots, and we just we know who this is aimed at.
Yeah, there's so much underbum in those films. It's sort of a lower curve, And but I find that, I mean, and it is 100% male gazy, there's no question, but I find that kind of objectification almost sweet because it's so obvious.
They're not hiding anything, are they?
They're not hiding anything. It's all the other films that are so much more kind of insidious. Not the Insidious films in particular, but it's just those are the ones where you're like, it just gets really wearisome. Like I remember, it's basically every so often I'll see a film that strikes me as feminist in some way, and it will almost feel like a shock. It's like an electric shock. It's like I don't know, Candy, if you had this, but like coming out of Wonder Woman, you're suddenly like, what? That spoke to me. That was for me. Or Little Women had the same thing, or The Candidate, if you remember that Joan Allen film from 25 years ago. Fantastic film. But like, I wanted to immediately have daughters so I could sit them down and make them watch that movie. I go, this is what you're aiming for, girls. This is what you got to do.
Not so much with Wonder Woman 1984, though.
Not so much.
Is it 84? I think it's
84.
84, yeah.
Not
That's
so much
the
with
other thing
that
that blew me was blew my mind was the Bechdel test that you referred to.
The Bechdel test.
Bechdel test, yeah.
And I was just like, oh my God, listening to the different ways that you could put a different test to how a film turns out. And I was just chuckling away like the Smurfette, the sexy lamp.
Sexy lamp, yeah, that was
Sexy,
amazing.
What, sexy lamp is a thing?
The sexy lamp test is absolutely a thing. If
True.
If you could replace a female character with a sexy lamp, then that's bad. Like, so she should have a role in the plot.
Yeah.
She should not just be there to be sexy.
Wow.
It's kind of the sexy lamp in question. I think was inspired by the lamp in A Christmas Story. If you've seen that, the leg lamp. Yeah. So that's kind of what they were thinking of. But like, if she's doing about as much as that lamp is, then she fails the sexy lamp test. Yeah.
Wow. With the male gaze stuff, what amused me most was just because obviously you also brought up like Wonder Woman is such a positive example of a female-led film and a female-directed film. But then it just made me think, well, hang on a second. When you get to Justice League, Zack Snyder spent a lot of time staring at Gal Gadot's bottom with the camera.
Yeah.
There was a lot of
Because it's
bottom
Zack
shots
Snyder.
for
They did it in slow-mo.
Yeah.
I mean, and you even see this like, so I noticed that in Black Widow versus, let's say, Winter Soldier. Now, I'm a Marvel stan. I freaking love those films. But like Winter Soldier, I think is stunning. There are quite a lot of bottom shots of Scarlett Johansson, and like it is a spectacular bottom. Well done her and her trainer. Well done everybody. And there are some shots where she's shot from behind in Black Widow, but it feels different. It does feel a little bit different, even though you can still see that she has a wonderful posterior. So I do feel like you don't have to lose the sexiness. I was actually watching Jennifer's Body today, and I think there's some of it there too. They're actually quite coy about showing outright nudity. For Jennifer, for Megan Fox there, but they do get across sexiness, and you don't always have to have full nudity for sexiness.
Yeah.
So,
Oh no, of course not. Leave stuff to the imagination. I've always said that.
Probably more sexy.
That's a beautiful segue to what I've been up to this week. So I've been watching two things. I'm going to talk about Why the Last Man first, because I know we've got some fans here. I've started watching this. I think I'm 3 episodes in. I think it comes out every week. It's on Disney Plus. Biggie down there, he's read the book, haven't you, Biggie?
Yes, I have.
One of the rare comics I've not read, which is...
Oh, really?
Oh, they're so good.
Trust me, Helen, I've read them all, apart from this one.
And the one black spot in your knowledge.
And I didn't realise it. It's starring Diane Lane. Love Diane Lane. She plays the president. And the show is about, if you don't know, and I believe the book's the same, it's about a gentleman named Yorick and his pet monkey, Ampersand, which is a great name for a monkey, and how he survives being the last cisgendered male on Earth after a mysterious global androcide, meaning all cis men are dead, except for Yorick. So, hilarity ensues.
all male animals as well.
Yes, all male animals. Yeah. And do you know that first episode, it's quite a slow burn, because you're getting used to characters. They all do it, don't they, these American shows, because there's that many episodes. Slow burn, you get, and then, wow, the ending to the first episode where the actual thing happens, where men start dying, it's harrowing.
Yeah.
It really, because at first I'm sat there going, oh no, this is another thing I'm not going to continue watching. And then that, boom. Whoa, wow. Incredible. So, I mean, anybody else seen it?
Yeah, I think I'm at the same point you are, and I'm loving it. I love those books. I think there's a real heart to them. I mean, there's the horror of the situation and there's the horror of the setup. But there's so much heart, and the ending of those comics made me cry.
Wow.
And not that many comics have ever managed that, but I still, like, every time I've reread it, same thing. So if they can keep that heart. I also like the fact that, weirdly, even though the comics are about literally one man in the world.
Yeah.
Like, there's only one man on Earth, but let's tell his story. Male gaze, everybody.
But
I genuinely think that, weirdly, they've amped up the women's roles.
He's not the main character, is he?
Yeah, he's not the main character so far, and that may change, and he may become more central. But right now, he's not the main character, and I think even if he does become more central, I think we'll see Agent 355 also step up. So yeah, I'm loving it so far. I'm super here for it.
It's nice to see the trans actors in as well, which
very good.
I didn't expect it, and obviously I should. But that was because at first I was like, "There's men there alive," but then it obviously it doesn't even throw it in your face. You just think, "Oh right, I get it now." So yeah, it's just really good, solid bit of sci-fi. But I'm just hoping it sticks this trajectory that it's going on. But I think it comes out every Friday or something like that.
Sounds about right. Yes.
Yeah. It could be one for you people that like to binge. Just leave it for a month or so and then just dive straight in. But yeah, really liked it.
I'm delighted at the moment because Hollywood is adapting my bookshelf this autumn. And I'm so here for it. So I haven't seen everything obviously so far, but I've seen some of Why the Last Man. I've seen quite a lot now of Foundation. I think I'm a few because I have access to the press site, so I've seen a bit more of that.
Beautiful show that is.
What a gorgeous show. It is confusing. We were just talking about it before we came on air. It is a little bit confusing, and they have not in any way softened it. In fact, they've made it more confusing than the book.
I was like this, scratching my head. Huh? Will it happen? Will it? Because at first I thought, I'm going to get like the Expanse kind of hard sci-fi, but
it is kind of as it goes.
It is, yeah. It's so Apple are throwing the money at these shows. Wow,
the money on that.
God,
screen
I need to start watching this.
Oh, it's I'm super sold on that one. And then coming up, not with us yet, is Wheel of Time, which I'm a super nerdy fan of. I'm rereading. I'm on book 12 at the moment. There are 14 plus a prequel. They're all like this thick. Wow. So yeah, that's coming up. And Sandman, and I'm forgetting something as well.
Oh God, I love Sandman so much. One of my favourite books.
You guys were talking on Twitter about Wall, weren't you? The Silo trilogy.
Yes, Wall.
Is that coming up as well?
That's some point late next year. Another Apple TV
Apple
one.
Are smashing it. They're just throwing it. That's it.
Because they don't have a lot, but everything they have.
No, they don't have a lot.
Yeah.
They
keep putting out little hints on the cast as well. Like, who did they get in the cast? Tim Robbins is in it.
Ooh.
Rebecca Ferguson's playing Jules.
Ooh.
Rashida Jones is playing Alison.
I'd love it.
David, I always get his surname wrong. David Oyelowo.
Oyelowo, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, as Holston.
This is most acceptable.
And it's probably going to look stunning as
Big
well.
cast.
Yeah. You know what? So many people have picked up that book series Gadget since you recommended it. I know at least 5 people. I need to get. I had no idea they were doing a TV adaptation.
If only you were on commission.
I know. I need a message to
Let's
you.
not forget, listeners, Gadget is also an author. Buy his book as well. Come on.
Please do.
And the next thing I want to talk about is what you've already mentioned. Black Widow. I watched that for the very first time this week. Directed by Kate Shortland. I'm not really familiar with Kate Shortland. I don't know her previous work. But, as we know, starring Scarlett Johansson, Florence Pugh, David Harbour, and Rachel Weisz. And do you know what? That's a strong cast. Now, I have
Very strong cast.
I have thoughts about this film. And as typical, when I have thoughts, I have to watch the film again. So I've watched it twice now. Because sometimes I'm so conflicted. I actually liked it more the second time round. I think, like me and Stig have talked off air about this, it's just placed so weirdly in the mythos, isn't it? Like in a timeline and everything like that. If you're not a Marvel super fan like a lot of us are, you wouldn't know what's happening. Especially if you've seen, spoiler alert, some of the other ones that have come before this. I won't spoil anything in the plot. Don't worry. It's just a romp, isn't it? It's the best way to describe it.
I did have some issues with it, but it was.
I had issues. Don't
generally
worry.
speaking, I thought it was fun.
Yeah.
Ray Winston's accent.
Sorry.
Ray Winston's accent for
Ray Winston shouldn't even be in that film. Bless
That was
him.
maybe not his best work. Yeah.
I love Ray, but
There were a few characters I thought that were slightly redundant. I was a bit disappointed with David Harbour's character. I thought they could have made more use of him.
do you know what? I really liked him at the beginning, at the intro, when he's all schlubby looking. And then fast forward and he's in prison and he's the strongest man in prison. This big Russian bear. I'm like, what happened? But upon watching it again, I realised, that the sleeper agents and stuff, like, I understood it. But, wow. I think it's not really top tier Marvel, but it's not Thor 2. Do you know what I mean?
But medium Marvel is still good, though.
It's definitely medium Marvel, and it should have come out before the Infinity War kicked off.
That would have been ideal. Yeah.
That's the problem, isn't it? It should have come out. I mean, we all know it should have come out years ago, but it should have come out after.
It's set just after Winter
Civil War.
Soldier, isn't it?
It's set after Civil War.
Civil War.
That's when it should have come out, because since then it's just gone. The scale's gone huge.
Yeah.
And we've come back to Marvel after obviously a year or so off, and it's shrunk right back down to this smaller story.
Yeah.
And I think too many people now just want the big spectacle, the kind of thing you got with Shang-Chi and what looks like the Eternals and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I did think it was possibly a springboard for Florence Pugh's character, though. I thought she was absolutely brilliant in it.
She's incredible.
And I
love her work. She's amazing.
It's super going to be. I think she'll be in Hawkeye. Honestly.
Yeah, I do. Yeah. She's going to be either the Black Widow, or they might even create a White Widow for her or whatever. I don't know. She's definitely going to be the new version of that. It's nailed on. But as a lot of people are rumorating on the internet, this could be a link to the Dark Avengers that could happen. Who knows? But yeah, I liked it. It's on Disney Plus now. You don't have to pay for it, because don't kid yourselves, you've all got Disney Plus. Everyone's got it. But yeah, we'll move on to Candy. What have you been doing?
I watched a film this week that I've been trying to watch for absolutely ages. It was released in 2020, and for whatever reason, it's only just come out in the UK. And that's a Danish film called Druk, or in English, it's called Another Round. Now, this is a light drama, and it's directed by Thomas Vinterberg and written by himself and Tobias Lindholm, and stars my boy Mads Mikkelsen.
Yes, your boy.
My boy. Now, the reason I've been looking forward to this for ages, Mads aside, obviously.
Because Mads is your boyfriend.
He's my husband. But it's been nominated for a multitude of awards and nominations. So it got the Oscar for Best International Feature Film, nominated for Best Director, got a BAFTA for Non-English Film, got a European Award for Best Film, and it was nominated for a Golden Globe for Best Foreign Language Film. So yeah, I've just been really looking forward to this for a long time now. Mads Mikkelsen plays a I assume it's a secondary school teacher. I don't know if it's
The high school teachers, I think.
Yeah, high school, yeah.
Yeah, it seems to be maybe the upper couple of years.
Yeah.
Sort of from year
Senior
9 onwards.
years.
Yeah, so basically he's hit rock bottom in his life. He's got no passion for his work. He's got a bit of a loveless marriage with his wife. Finds it difficult to communicate and bond with his teenage kids, and just kind of lost that lust for life. He goes out for a meal with his best friends, who also happen to be teachers, who notice he's not drinking. And I can't remember exactly the reason. I think he was driving, or he had work or something. And at the meantime, they're sort of ordering all these amazing drinks. And he ends up having a bit of a breakdown.
Boogie.
No, not a boogie. He ends up having a bit of a breakdown, starts crying and just starts explaining how unhappy he is. And this the group of friends who were completely non-toxic, they're all really supportive. No one's embarrassed by him crying at all, and they're sort of talking about his emotions. But anyway, the conversation leads on to, after offering their support and advice, it moves on to talk about a psychiatrist called Finn Skarderud, who's theorized that humans are born with a blood alcohol content deficiency of about 0.05. And he theorizes that maintaining that slightly higher blood alcohol level makes one more creative and relaxed. So, of course, being teachers, they decide this would be a brilliant experiment to try whilst they're teaching and carrying on with life. So they agreed to...
That sounds like a recipe for disaster.
I wish my teachers
Spoilers.
would have done that.
Yeah. There's some good drunk scenes, trust me.
Yeah, so they agreed to their set of rules. And I looked up, and so blood alcohol level for a man that's about 10 stone is about 2 pints of medium strength beer.
Mm-hmm.
And that's basically how the film's launched. And it's no secret, obviously, that I'm a fan of Mads, and his performance in this is up to his usual standard, I think. It's not the first time he's worked with Vinterberg. He worked with him in The Hunt. I don't know if anyone's seen that, but it's another brilliant film. But obviously,
I've seen everything that Mads is in. Don't worry.
Yeah, much darker subject matter. Now, while I wouldn't call Druck a comedy per se, it does have a much lighter tone. One thing that did bring me a lot of joy, and there's a slightly odd dance scene.
Yes, there is
during the film. Now, I knew Mads is a dancer, and he that was his training. You can certainly tell that in some of the more action-packed roles he's done, like Doctor Strange. But I'd never seen him actually dance before. And
he can move.
He's got the moves.
I was going to say he's not done a Ricky Gervais, has he?
No.
No, it's more of a Christopher Walken weapon of choice.
Yes.
Oh wow.
He's up there. Yeah.
They've actually clipped that scene on the internet now, and they've put that weapon of choice into it. So that's a thing that's around now. But yeah, it's so good, such a good film.
Yeah, I was really glad that I got to see it finally after waiting for what seems like forever. Really good. Really enjoyed it.
Excellent. Biggie, you've been doing, boy?
Well, I, as I mentioned before, finger on the pulse and all that, I finally finished Tiger King. Finally got around to that. Man, that is something else.
Spoiler alert, there was a global issue after that.
I was talking to my wife about it earlier today, and I was just like, the thing that blows my mind about that is that no one would write that as a plot of some description. It's so insane.
Well, the film isn't coming.
It's meant to be, wasn't it? Was it Nicolas Cage?
Nicolas Cage, yeah.
Part of it.
He'd do anything for a few quid, Nick Cage.
Just, what a story. Just mind, I'm still processing it now, really, about everything that happened in that series. Such a weird, I mean, America is America, but wow, that was just something else.
So do you get all the memes now that happened last year?
Yeah, I kind of, you couldn't escape it when it happened. I got all that, but it was just kind of wondering what it all meant, and now I totally understand it even more. But I was happy to try and avoid spoilers as best as I could.
I mean,
yeah,
even then, seeing it, you still don't fully understand the full insanity of it.
No,
it's like I said to Gadget last week, I think it's terrible, but you've got to watch it.
It's like watching a car crash.
Hated it.
My favourite single moment from that entire series is it's quite late on, and it's when they're talking with the exotic animals salesman, the kind of the one that eventually dobs him in. And you just see him. There's like this establishing shot of him riding on a jet ski.
Yep.
with a
Yes.
is a really kind of really large man with a life vest on, wraparound shades, like a failing hairline coming back on a jet ski, and it's just like, why?
Yeah, that's real
Why not?
footage.
Why?
Isn't that the dream?
It was one of those moments where when we were watching it, like me and my girlfriend, like we just had to scroll back like 2 or 3 times. We did actually see that. There's not like carbon monoxide in here or anything, is there?
Have you guys seen The Jinx?
No.
Did you see that when it was? It's kind of. I think it was on. I don't even know if it was on Sky here, but it was on HBO in the States. It was a 6-part documentary about this bizarre. It's the most jaw-dropping documentary I've ever seen. And Tiger King came close, but for me, if you can see The Jinx, that's the most jaw-dropping
The Jinx,
thing.
getting that written down.
Yeah.
Oh, no,
Like,
that was on the list when I was going through, like, there's like Making a Murderer, then I watched The Staircase, and then
yeah.
this other one about some bank robbery that went crazy or something. I can't remember what the name of that one was.
This one, I would say, don't read anything about it before you watch, if you can. Don't read
I will.
anything.
I'll definitely check that out.
Because every episode, I literally would finish and go, what? No. But seriously. It starts off with a dead body with no limbs, and it gets much weirder from there.
Oh, sold already.
Yeah, it hits Sky over here, so I assume it's probably on Now TV.
Oh, I've got to get another trial.
But to make things a bit more fresh, the one thing I have binge watched this week is Midnight Mass.
Me too.
Oh, yes. Tell me about this, because I've got that ready to go.
Well, yes. The biggest problem about Midnight Mass is you can't really talk about too much about it because it will ruin
one
it.
of them.
So what I will say is that the plot basically centres around an isolated island community that experiences supernatural events after the arrival of a mysterious priest who replaces the original Monsignor of the island. But the actual TV series starts with one of the main characters who unfortunately was very drunk, killed somebody in a car crash. He goes to prison for 4 years, and when he comes back out of prison, he's obviously got nothing. I think it's implied that he's sort of like maybe into stocks and shares, something business orientated in New York, and suddenly finds himself with absolutely nothing of the world left. So he goes back home to this isolated community. His family, who are very religious, take him back in. And my God, the topics it covers is just insane. It's about loss, grief. It's about family ties, religion, obviously.
Yeah.
It's just so many things are covered in this. And I loved it. I thought it was brilliant. There's a nice twist, obviously, that we can't really talk about. But all the actors are in there are absolutely brilliant. They've been picked out really well.
I've seen Twitter exploding with Rahul Kohli as the sheriff.
Yeah.
He's amazing.
Because
I
he's
liked
a
him
beautiful
anyway.
man, that's why.
But I mean, it's created and directed by Mike Flanagan, who also did The Haunting of Hill House. The not so great Blythe Manor. I wasn't a big fan of that, but it's still good. And Rahul Kohli was in that as well. I just think this is excellent. Really, really enjoyed it, and a nice play on a very popular theme, which become clear once you watch it.
Love.
Yeah.
I think
Wrap
I've
that up
watched that
nicely.
then because
Yeah.
my wife wanted to watch it, and I really didn't like Blythe Manor, like to the point where I watched it all apart from the last episode. I just tuned out so much.
I think everyone's saying this is the best one.
I'm not. I'm
I
sorry.
prefer Hill House.
I think Hill House is still like an absolute masterpiece. I think Hill House
Yes,
is
that was
extraordinary.
brilliant.
But this for me is up there. I think it's really good.
Ooh, there you go, dear listener. Right, who am I missing?
Me.
Yes, there you go, catch it. What have you been doing this week, sir?
It's not much to report because I've spent most of the week reading Helen's book.
Thank you. That's
Last
great.
minute cramming.
It's all right. Helen spent most of her life writing it.
Yeah. Well, it was last minute cramming because I've also been kind of busy with work and stuff this week, so I ended up reading 219 pages today.
Wow.
See what I mean about him being able to read fast? I'd still be here, like going through it now, just trying to pick out bits to talk about.
Chapter 1.
But so a handful of things I have been doing. I've been catching up on season 2 of Star Trek Lower Decks on Amazon.
Yes.
Love it.
Yes.
Which is so funny,
So funny.
and they've just amped up the insanity from
So good.
from the first season. There's far more references. That they've got guest appearances from like him who played Tom Paris in Voyager. The Borg Queen Alice Krieg is in it. It's so funny. And I think there's 2 episodes. They've just put out episode 9, and then episode 10 will be next week. So there's 2 episodes left for me to watch.
Can I just quickly say, because he mentioned it again on this week's podcast, James, talking about how he refuses to watch Lower Decks.
I know.
He needs to.
Yeah.
What's wrong with him?
He doesn't like adult animation.
No.
Yeah, because Family Guy got mad.
Or comedy, yeah. In fairness, he also doesn't like comedy or fun or joy.
I like him already.
I still think it's one of the best adaptations of Star Trek outside of like the 90s Star Trek.
This is what I've been telling him. I've been like, it's really, really in touch with Star Trek's core values, but it's hilarious about it. So
yeah, it's hilarious, but it's progressive. Like you get a lot of things about like character sexualities and stuff like that, which I really like. Beckett Mariner is such a really good leading character. And Boimler is a great foil to her.
Yeah.
Which it's the voice actor's just playing the same role as he plays in the Boys, isn't he?
Yeah. And he's just, I mean, his scenes on Riker's ship are some of the funniest things I've ever seen in Star Trek ever. Just amazing.
How they play with Riker's character as well, like. The ship's going through some catastrophic battle, and he just gets up into something. There's too much bass in this jazz. We need some more toms. Like, what does that even mean? It's so funny, but it is absolutely something Riker would say. I love it. It's funny.
So good for me because, like, was it last year I watched all of Star Trek?
Yeah,
for the first time in my life, I watched all of. It was last year, wasn't it? Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
During lockdown, I just did all of, including the original series. I did all of Star Trek, and to me, then I watched Lower Decks. I'm like, oh, I get all. This is incredible. This is really good. But
the moment you got to Enterprise and brought up the theme tune.
Yeah, I stopped watching Enterprise. I didn't watch it. I couldn't watch it. It was terrible.
Yeah. I'll be honest. I would consider myself a Trekkie, and I have not seen all of Enterprise.
No, me either. I gave up on it, unfortunately.
It's tonally off. Enterprise, it's not.
I know,
good.
But it's Scott Bakula, so I really think I should give it another go someday. You know,
maybe it's
just
going to
hard
age
keep up
better.
with TV. Maybe it will. Maybe it will.
Which is the one that's got that awful theme tune?
That's the one.
That's Enterprise.
That's Enterprise. Yeah.
It's not just awful. It's just it shouldn't be there.
It would be a perfectly good theme tune for a drama about small town America.
Yes, it would. Yeah.
It's so weird, so random that.
There's and before I move on, just one of the things I loved most about Lower Decks is actually specifically my girlfriend's reaction to it. So she loves Next Generation. It was like something that she used to watch with her dad when she was a kid, and she loved the episode Darmok, which is the only episode of Star Trek ever to feature the Temerians, who speak entirely in allegory and metaphor. Yes. And in Lower Decks, they bring in a new security officer who is a Darmok and speaks in that language, and at the very end of the episode he just says "Shaka when the walls fell" in like a really jokey end of cartoon way, and my girlfriend she just like screeched in happiness because that is such a surreal character trait and it's wonderful. But the main thing I want to talk about is and I'm not going to go into spoilers for it, but I finished Deathloop this week. Finally managed to finish Deathloop. It's so fucking good. So good.
As soon as you texted me, I turned it straight back on. I was like, I need to get back to it. I'm sorry, Death Stranding. It's Deathloop time.
I do have a couple of criticisms with it, so I don't think it's going to bother Monster Hunter Rise as my game of the year.
Okay.
But it's up there. It's right up there. Mostly my criticisms revolve around the fact that I kind of, for all that there's all this freedom in the levels, I think from what I can see, there's only one solution for the final loop. And that kind of, it doesn't annoy me so much, but I think it's a little bit of a letdown when you're given all this freedom so early on, and for the majority of the game, to go through the levels in whatever order you want, do all the story beats in whatever order you want, to have a set way to do the ending. And I think also by that point, you're very tooled up, and it's actually a bit too easy. It needs to be a bit harder for that final loop. But other than that, it's absolutely brilliant, and I actually loved the ending. The ending is one of those. It's one of those games where the ending is quite a short, sharp one.
Oh, rather than like 15 different endings.
Yeah, it's not a Kojima game. You're not getting a Death Stranding 2-hour ending here.
Okay.
But I really like the ending I got because it's one of those games. Again, at the very end, it offers you a choice, and the choice I made, I was very satisfied with. I think it is probably Arcane's best game. I think Dishonored 2 was technically, from a technical perspective, a lot better in terms of like the amount of things that you can do with it and the amount of ways to play with the game. But this is like a more accessible, more refined version of that, and I think it is absolutely brilliant. Those kind of little niggly misgivings aside, and I only bring those up because it's such a good game. Like
You've got to be critical, haven't you? You've got to be.
Yeah. Like it's such a good game. They are tiny concerns because I enjoyed it from start to finish. There was not a point of the game I didn't enjoy.
Cool. You know, I love Prey, so you think it's way above that by the sounds of it?
Yeah. It's way above that. I think there's a lot less backtracking than in Prey, and I think Prey's world makes a lot more sense than Black Reef Island. Black Reef Island's just insane, but it's they let you enjoy the insanity. Like, it's more of a sandbox to play in than Talos one was in Prey.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
But I think Prey's aesthetic was better. Like, I like the kind of Art Deco sci-fi in space floating around kind of thing. But I do think Deathloop is a better game for it.
Excellent. Well, I do look forward to borrowing it from you.
Yes, I shall bring it down to you, so you don't have to spend £70.
I'm not doing it. But yes, I can't wait. Helen, what have you been doing this week?
I have been quite a few things, actually, because I've been quite lazy this week and haven't done very much work. So I've been catching up on stuff. So I've been rereading, technically, Wheel of Time ahead of that, starting in November. I'm up to book 12. I have been catching up on some stuff that I had missed when it came out. So Midnight Mass, for example.
Not Tiger King.
No, I saw that way back when everybody else watched it.
Everyone in the world.
Everything.
I was busy watching other things.
Sorry, Big Ass still haven't watched it.
It's fine. I did watch Lego Star Wars Terrifying Tales yesterday.
Yes, my kids did.
I was kind of hoping for more, I'll be honest, because Lego Star Wars Christmas Special, and the Lego is so important in that sentence, was brilliant.
It is really good.
It was really funny, and the Terrifying Tales was fine. I thought so. It was a bit of a letdown. And otherwise, I went to the cinema and I saw some stuff, but I'm not sure I'm allowed to.
Oh yes, don't get in trouble on our account, please.
No, I don't want to break any embargoes. I think I'm definitely, the embargo is up for Dune now, so I can say I've seen
Is
that
it
twice
good?
And I fucking love it.
Yes, yes.
Steg, we need to book tickets.
I'm making a special trip for an hour away to go see it on IMAX.
Like, just full disclosure, like, I was on set. It turned out I've got new bookshelves behind me, which you guys can see and listeners cannot. But when I was putting all my books, sorting everything out and putting them on the shelves, it turns out I have 3 copies of Dune, not 2. I thought
I've got 2,
ebook.
And I've got the audio book as well. It's one of the the whole Dune collection is the only thing I've actually paid money for audio books, because the others, with your subscription on Audible, I just get the token. But this is the ones that I've actually put physical cash.
Actually, you've got a special Dune gift, haven't you?
Oh yeah. Helen, we did a Secret Santa last year on the podcast, and it was like live openings of gifts. And for some reason, because I'd gotten a couple of the people on the podcast to read Dune, expecting that the film was going to come out when it was originally supposed to last year.
Sure. Yep.
And for some reason, one of this collective, who will remain nameless, got me a little canvas of Sting from the original Dune film.
Topless Sting.
So topless Sting in his nappy.
Yeah,
just standing like that with his hands on his hips.
Nappy wearing Sting. Wow.
That was
what a special gift.
Very special.
That was the look on his face.
You had a lot to say about that film, didn't you, Idles? When you watched it for the first time last year.
I did a lot of the firsts last year.
You were bored. It was lockdown. It was fine.
Yeah, it was a big year for me. But yeah, that original. That's not a good film, is it?
It's famously not, no. And I think this one is.
But they didn't tell me if it was bad or not. They just said, "Watch Dune."
Because we all suffered it.
So
Helen, can I ask you a question about visiting Dune on set? So I imagine obviously there's going to be a lot of green screen, special effects,
sand everywhere.
Afterwards. Nope. So at what point, where did you visit it exactly then?
So sadly, I didn't get to go to the desert, which I would have freaking loved.
Yes.
But no, I got to go to Budapest, which is where they had built their set. So they basically, all the stuff, when you say all the stuff in the desert is just in the desert, there's really no set there.
You can tell it's real.
You genuinely can. It looks incredible. But I was on the sets that they built in Origo Studios outside Budapest, and they were. I mean, I've been on big films. I've been on, Wonder Woman and several Marvel films, and Harry Potter's and all the rest. These are the biggest sets I think I've ever been on. They were probably 300 meters long. There was very little green screen, maybe up over the sort of 30-foot point. They would have some green screen so they could extend upwards. but there was nothing green near any of the actors in any of the stuff I saw them doing. It was
Outstanding.
astonishing.
Incredible.
Yeah.
I can't stress enough. I want everyone listening to this to actually go physically see it in the cinema.
Yes.
Because we need sequels. We need them.
Yeah.
We do, because this is only half of the book.
Yes.
That's right.
And this is not that's not a spoiler, I don't think. There is a natural break. If you know the book,
Yeah.
you'll know what I'm talking about. There's a natural point. That's where they're breaking the film. And it does feel like a story that is complete in itself, but it also feels like a story where you're like, I need more, though. Give me more now.
I was like that when I saw Fellowship of the Ring, because
Oh, yeah.
I was a fan of the books anyway, and when I saw the first one in the cinema, you just like, it's a long film anyway, but you just wanted it to keep going.
It wasn't long enough.
Not
Yeah,
even close.
it's-
I remember I saw that I was in Austin, Texas when that came out, and I was coming out the cinema. I saw it 7 times, I think, in the cinema, but on one of those occasions, I was coming out the cinema behind 2 people who were saying, God, that's a really weird end to a film. And I did, like, I try not to be that guy, but on this occasion, I did sort of lean forward and go, they have made the next one. It will be out next Christmas. I promise, you know. But
Can you imagine that coming out of that going, yeah, what a weird ending. Like,
It is
I'm
based
surprised
on a book.
there's people out there that didn't actually know that, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had no idea. I guess by that point, that was probably not my first viewing, which everybody in that audience knew everything that was going to happen. But I think it might have been 3rd or 4th. So they'd obviously heard it was a big deal, but didn't know why. Maybe let's be charitable and assume that was it. But yeah.
Incredible.
Can I just ask a quick question just regarding going on set visits? I've always wondered, is there anything that you've been on and you've seen it
Stolen
and got,
from.
She's got loads of lightsabers.
No,
Can you imagine?
I just thought, do you know what? I wish I wasn't here to see that, and I would have seen it finishing in the cinema.
oh, that's a good
Oh, I
point.
see what you mean.
Like
No,
seeing a
because you're so
pivotal part.
excited being on set, to be
Yeah,
honest.
okay.
And most of the stuff I've been on, some things they have brought me on set for spoilers or the last scene in the film, and you're just like, this is unhelpful, guys. This is not, like, because they're like, well, this is the day when everyone's here, so we've brought you on set today, but you can't write about what you're seeing.
Oh.
And you're like, that's less helpful than you think it is. It would be better to come for like 2 half days.
Just dangling the carrot, just to
yeah.
tease you. Imagine rocking up to like the set, and there's a big like greened up Josh Brolin, and he's just going like this. He's just going like, oh no! I'm not even going to say it because I don't want to spoil it for people that have not seen it, but
Yeah.
you know what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about. I mean, I think my colleague has talked about this now, but something similar did happen to Chris on set of Infinity War.
No.
So,
Oh no!
So yeah, you sometimes learn stuff that you maybe wish you hadn't, but they do tend. Basically, the important thing is to know what's a spoiler, because then you know not to put it in your piece.
True.
You know, but
True.
but like and that's what I always kind of say to people when I'm going on set. Look, if something's a spoiler and you're worried I'm going to guess it, or you've said too much, just let me know it's a spoiler, because then I won't give it away to readers.
Could you imagine being on set for Christian Bale's Meltdown? Imagine that. If you
Me and you
were
are good
there for
professionals,
that one.
mate.
Again, they warned the actors were going to be there, so I think there's
Yeah.
an element of people keeping themselves under control those days. But no, you know, there's an element of give and take. I think that people know that
Yeah,
you're there,
of
so
course.
they're on their good behaviour. But
They're all smiling that day.
yeah, exactly. It's fine.
I'm sure I read in one of your magazines, or it might have been on the podcast, where there must be some sort of, I don't know how it's divvied out, who goes where you must be like, oh God, I've got that film. I wish I had that one.
Fierce competition, yeah. James would have done Dune, but he wasn't available that day, and so luckily I was at least second in line. But like I know that, like, he had campaigned for that very hard. I, back in the day, before we knew what the film was going to be, lobbied very hard for X-Men Origins Wolverine.
Ooh.
I'm a Wolverine fangirl. I didn't know the film
So
was
am
going
I.
to turn out like that
Yeah,
until I went on set.
me too.
But even then, like, even on set, you're sort of, you know, they're telling you the setup to the film, and they're giving you the outline, and you're a bit like, why are all these other mutants in my Wolverine?
Yeah, I was thinking
That was my next question.
Anyway,
Do you
and
ever
that
go
Helen
on
having
set?
a meltdown. What, a sword coming out of his arm?
That one over there is Deadpool, and you're like, what?
I don't look like Deadpool.
Yeah, sorry, that was going to be my next question, was if you ever go onto set, do you personally think, oh, I don't think this is going the way I'd
They
hope?
look so different, though, don't they, the finished product?
Yeah, they do, but you do tend to have a fairly good outline. You do tend to have an idea. Like, I did think Wolverine was overcomplicated. And I did think that I came back from 300 and I said, look, it's going to look amazing. I don't know what the dialogue or the story is going to be like, but it's going to look incredible.
No one went to see
stand by that
300 for the
review.
dialogue, though.
Can you imagine being on set? I was the only female journalist. It was very, very distracting.
I bet it was.
We know where your gaze was.
Yeah.
But that's genuinely the thing. This is a genuine part of the book. Like, it's one of the things that frustrates me about that film is that everybody talked about it being homoerotic. Which, okay,
The Spartans,
I can
though.
absolutely see that. Yeah. But the thing is, like, when there's a film full of women in bikinis, they don't call that homoerotic.
No.
They call
they
that just
don't.
erotic. So there's an assumption either way that it's men who are doing the looking and women don't really feature. Anyway, but yes, they wear all in pants. Because I've been sitting on the plane over. I was rereading the book on the plane on the way over, going, well, they're definitely going to put them in armor. I mean, they're pretty much naked in the book. That's not going to be the case. And then I walked on set and was like, okay.
Oh, hello, Jerry Butler. Hello.
Look them in the eyes. Look them in the eyes.
Oh, too hard to resist. Excellent. We're going to wrap this segment up now. And as we always do, we're going to go to the main topic now. And Biggie, you're the man that tells us what we're going to be doing.
Oh, great. I've just seen what's written there as well. Okay.
Did you not clock that? Biggie had a bit of a moment with the intro last week. So
I was tired, all right?
Yeah, it was terrible.
So this week, we discuss our favourite people in Hollywood to the point of women.
That's terrible. We're not
Can someone
having this.
explain to Helen why that's there?
Last week our subject was things that have aged like milk. So just things that just haven't aged well over the years. And Biggie's intro was we're talking about things that have aged to the point of milk. With the absolute confidence in what he was saying, at which point we all
I knew
died
what I was
laughing.
meant to say, it just didn't come out so well.
Yeah, I feel you. Yeah, I understand.
What are we really doing? What's this main topic?
We are celebrating, of course, women in Hollywood.
Excellent. And what we do, Helen, I'm sure you've been prepped. We do a little round table, very similar to that other segment. We're very original. And we just go from people to people, and we've all got one person to discuss, but it's probably going to be a massive discussion in general anyway. So we're going to start with, at random, Candy Machine.
Actually, can I just mention that it was going to be an original topic of ours
It was.
a few weeks ago for those that didn't realise that. But then the lovely Helen had posted on Twitter about her book. So
And Biggie capitalised on it.
So, yeah, it's
Straight in
literally
there.
just suddenly said to the guys, wow, have you seen this Twitter? This is a really good timing. And then just tried to see if we could get Helen on. And then it was just naturally her diary's mega busy. So it's just trying to fit it all in. And she was.
But as Helen's told us, she's addicted to podcasts, so straight in.
That's true.
Straight
So
in.
we'll see you next week.
Yeah, sorry, Helen, we can't do next week. We'll do it.
Oh, it's like that, is it? I see. All right.
But yeah, we'll start with Candy Machine. Who are you bringing to the table?
Well, mine, I think, is probably going to be slightly different to everyone else's in that this woman has become slightly larger in Hollywood more recently, particularly within the last 5 years, and that's Lauren Schmidt-Hissrich. Lauren Schmidt-Hissrich, who I'm going to refer to her as Lauren, I hope she doesn't mind, is an American TV producer and screenwriter, and she's the executive producer of the television series of The Witcher, which came out in, I believe it was in late 2019.
Yes.
And her work on The Witcher is kind of what I'm going to be focusing on particularly, although I will go through her history as well. She got her start in Hollywood in 2002 as a writer for West Wing.
Oh, I used to love West Wing.
Oh, The West Wing is the greatest.
Oh,
Absolutely.
So good.
Yeah, so she worked as a story editor and scriptwriter also for Justice, for Drive, and Grey's Anatomy spin-off Private Practice.
Oh.
And then in
Not a fan.
My wife's obsessed with Grey's Anatomy, so every time I hear those two words, I'm like, ugh. Not again.
So in 2016, she became involved in the Marvel series Daredevil. And then in 2019, she worked as a writer and executive producer on Netflix's Umbrella Academy.
Oh, that's so good.
Which ended up being the third most popular on the streaming site of the year. And now the reason I wanted to go through the history, obviously, apart from being an incredible backlog of work that she's done, she's not afraid of taking on what might be considered male-based projects.
That's what I just realised, yeah.
Daredevil, West Wing.
Proper male power fantasy things as well.
And nothing could be more evident, really, than taking on the role of executive producer on the popular book and possibly even more popular game series, Witcher.
Yeah.
Now, when she was approached to adapt the Witcher books to screen, she herself wasn't even sure she was the right person for the job, having never really done a fantasy series before. And after seeing the show and reading the books, she was absolutely, I think, having a woman as the showrunner was absolutely what should have been done. There's so many strong women within the story.
Oh, God, yeah.
It would be an absolute disservice to them to have somebody writing what they think it's like being a female. And Gadget, you phrased that point before. I think you brought it up when we were talking about Artemis by Andy Weir.
Yeah.
And you found it obvious that it was a man trying to write what he thought it might be like being a woman.
Yeah. There are.
I wouldn't even dare attempt that.
It must be so easy being a woman.
There are some male authors who are very capable of writing in a woman's voice. Two of my lead characters in my book were women, and I tried to write them what I thought would be authentically. But it's really difficult. Like, I had to rewrite those characters several times to get it to a point where I wasn't offending anyone who read it.
It must be scary, though.
It
must be such a scary thing.
Absolutely
I've said to
terrifying.
you that my favourite character in your book is the president.
Yeah, Anna.
Is Anna. So far, like, the female character is my favourite character in the book. So
same.
You've done a good job. With her.
Andy Weir's Artemis kind of really missed the mark with the lead character, in that she is a completely unbelievable woman. She is written as a bloke going, "Oh, this is what women are like."
I just read it as if she was a man.
Yeah. It's much easier to read that book if you just read the main character as a bloke.
Yeah, you just have to follow the story rather than the fact that it's a woman. Going back to The Witcher. So, for example, in the first series alone, you have Ciri, you have Calanthe the Lioness, Renfrey, aka Shrike. You got Yennefer and Triss as well. And what I love about the way she's produced it is that she's allowed these characters to be fully fleshed out women, rather than just women that are closely linked to Geralt. For example, in the books, Yennefer didn't actually have a huge backstory.
Nope.
It resulted in fans.
I think it was just the last wish she mainly appeared in, isn't it? In the books.
She was. I mean,
long lost girlfriend type thing.
Yeah, it resulted in some fans, I think, finding it difficult to connect with her from the books, since she was always portrayed as being somewhat aloof. And in the TV series, Lauren not only gave her a past that made it gave it a slightly more nuanced, but also a story that progressed feminism in fantasy. I think
she was incredible.
I
think she's absolutely incredible in it.
I think one really good thing that she did with the adaptation of, because I wasn't sure on the actor's performance as Yennefer.
I loved it.
Yeah, I'm the same.
I loved it.
But I like the character. And what I really liked about how the character was written is that, because in the games, Yennefer is very much an extension of Geralt.
Yes.
And sort of in the books as well, with the backstory, she doesn't meet Geralt until 2/3 of the way through the series. Like, she has her own story before she meets Geralt. And I much prefer that, because she has her own motivations, where she doesn't in the games. It's just orbiting around Geralt in some strange way.
You would orbit round him, though. I would.
I know you would.
Geralt of Rivia.
Get back under your bridge, you little goblin.
Well, it would be so easy for somebody to write a story that is completely Geralt focused, and I'm sure a lot of fans would like that as well. But to actually fully flesh out these characters around him is probably a fairly brave step, especially considering some of the hardcore Witcher fandom. And like you mentioned, Helen, some fandoms are slightly more aggressive than others, and I think possibly a gaming fandom might be one of the more aggressive ones.
Yes, well, I mean, Gamergate and so on.
Yes.
And also, I think it's a credit to, she must have kind of laid that out pretty early for Henry Cavill, for example, because he's by far the biggest name in the show. It's not close. And so, to an extent, he would have had to buy into that idea, and he would have had to be sold on, it being clear that it's not quite a co-lead. He's definitely the lead of the show, but this is a very significant chunk of time with other characters.
Yeah.
Yennefer gets nearly a full 2 episodes to herself.
Yeah.
So it's massive, that. Obviously they have to put Cavill in for 5 minutes in each episode. It turns up.
We demanded it. Yes, correct.
Yeah, exactly.
But she's actually been quoted as saying, I think for me, I just understand where Yennefer came from. Part of her strength is her coldness. Part of the strength is her coldness, and all the boundaries that she's put up. And then she also went on to say, and I apologise because this is quite a long quote, but I think it's important. One of Yennefer's driving forces in the books is this desire to have a child, and I wanted to understand exactly where that came from. And it's one of my favourite decisions. Obviously, in the book, it's a big deal, but mages are sterilised. I wanted to make Yennefer culpable for that decision. I wanted it to partially be with her, that it wasn't something that was forced on her unfairly, because I think that's much more reflective of real life. We all make decisions that we make, and we think they're right in the moment, and then they ripple out into our futures. It's just dominoes that are falling, and I think to make Yennefer not a victim but part of that decision just makes her a more interesting character to me and much more like the women I know in real life. And I don't want to be sexist in saying that I think a male writer or a male producer might not quite hit that point on the head.
Yeah.
I mean, Andrzej Sapkowski doesn't really hit the nail on the head in the books. Yennefer's a very different character in the books. She's not that
and
nice.
Yet she's still, I mean, there's still strong female characters in there. It's certainly, when was The Witcher written? The 80s?
90s.
Early 90s.
90s. So, I mean, that was fairly progressive for that time.
True.
I know it seems like the 90s isn't that long ago, but in terms of where women are in Hollywood now, or in books, it has, there's certainly been a massive difference.
Yeah.
Another thing I really like about how she's portrayed women, that often strong women in films are shown as older. For example, a lot of people were taken aback by how young Yennefer looked, but, why should power only come with age?
Agreed.
And I love that Lauren is not afraid to have women of all ages and appearances portraying powerful women. It makes me wonder if a man, if men, I don't want to sound men-hating because I absolutely don't mean it that way at all.
You're allowed to, don't worry.
No, I mean...
Not that I'm giving you permission either. Just do what you need to do.
Thank you, Oodles, voice of men of all the world.
Absolutely not.
He doesn't speak for us. We've had a meeting about it.
It makes me wonder if another director or another producer would only cast a stronger action-focused woman as older or sort of more beaten up or masculine looking, because if their faces got injured in battle, it wouldn't matter. Do people kind of see it that way? She's tough looking anyway, she's seen battle. Doesn't matter if she gets a hilt to the face. And Lauren hasn't made that division that beautiful women can't possibly be tough as well. It's not one or the other. And as I mentioned before, of course, when researching this, the ugly side of Reddit raised its head.
Oh, yeah. You don't
go to Reddit.
I fell down the Reddit hole.
Oh.
I was researching. I had to find all angles, unfortunately. But, how dare a woman take on a series based in part on a computer game? Women don't play computer games. She won't understand it. But I think she understands perfectly fucking well, and even more so than some of the early entries of the games. For example, in the first game, it had a particularly heinous mechanic of gamifying sleeping with women by letting Geralt collect sex cards of the women that he'd conquered.
No. Oh yeah.
It were virtual notches on the bedpost, but in Pokemon-style trading cards of women.
No.
Oh, yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah. Oh, I do not like it.
With nipples.
Yep, that was in 2007. And the thing is, the graphics in the game were blocky. They weren't great.
Crap.
But the artwork on those cards was possibly the most meticulous in the game.
Of course,
they were like Renaissance art. It was incredible.
Some men really told on themselves with that stuff. It's always been an interesting. I genuinely, maybe they have been written. I haven't read them, but I do think there are theses to be written on boobs in video games.
They're everywhere.
That's the
title of your next book.
Blocking it should be. It'd be hilarious. Except I don't know anything about games, so I'm not the person to write it. But But the blockiness of those early kind of Tomb Raider. But at the same time, there was enough curve to get everybody excited. So, how much curve is the minimum degree of curve? And games companies have often said that women are harder. Their excuse has been that female characters are harder to design, and the mechanics are harder. How do the breasts move? There's no way to know. Oh God!
How could we research this topic?
Then you get companies like Koei Tecmo with Dead or Alive. Who have teams? They have development teams dedicated to the breast physics.
Teams, didn't they?
Yeah, bounce teams.
Yeah.
And if you created your own character, the older they got, the bigger the boobs got.
Yeah.
Is that how those? I don't think that's how those work.
I don't think it is either.
I'm not a scientist.
Unfortunately, that's how mine has worked. So yeah, I mean, inevitably the fans that enjoy that kind of thing, they sort of taken it upon themselves to try and grief her on Twitter. But she does, the way she deals with it, she does deal with it with grace. And she actually explained that not all negative comments are hate, and she does take negative criticism on board. And sometimes people just want an explanation of creative decisions. And then to the ones that do want to cause her grief, she said, and this is lovely. Those people I let go. They're welcome to opinions, but I don't let them get in our way. My commitment to bring this rich, fun, dark, culturally diverse, life lesson-filled fantasy world to a greater audience is stronger than my desire not to be yelled at on the internet.
Yeah.
So I think that was just an absolutely lovely way to deal with it, and perfectly.
And there's obviously a lot of people are waiting for The Witcher 2. It surprised a lot of people how well that series took off. So
it was better than it had any right to be.
It was really good.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's really good. Excellent.
Yeah, I just think she's a really good example of a modern creative in Hollywood rather than somebody that's in front of the camera.
And I'll be honest, I didn't know who she was until you said who she was. But you've opened my eyes to it. That's brilliant. Thank you very much. But yeah,
and it's good. It's good to see Netflix hiring showrunners like that and giving them power and giving them, the room to maneuver. I think that they've always given men. So with straight, white, cis, able-bodied, etc.
Yes,
it's funny you should mention that actually, because it got me thinking when I was researching it. I wonder how many female game directors there are, and I know games aren't necessarily your cup of tea, Helen, but it was interesting to find out that there's barely any.
There's a few writers, isn't there, like of note? But yeah, there's just
there's writers and there's creatives, and there's women that are high up in gaming companies, but there's no, as far as I could see or as far as I can think of, no actual directors.
Yeah, I think it's auteur theory kind of rearing its head again. We're more likely to credit men as these creative auteurs. I mean, it's something that, and this, I didn't get a chance to put all of this in the book because it would have taken at least chapters, and I think it could be a book on its own. Women in animation, I think, is a real smoking gun for sexism in Hollywood because, for example, with cinematographers, they go, well, you have to lift lots of heavy equipment early in your career. You have to come up via being a cameraman. That's why there are no women cinematographers, right? Which isn't true anymore, but fine. Historically, okay. But animation, that has never been true. There has never been any heavy lifting. And yet these sexist myths have persisted. And Walt Disney thought women didn't have any rhythm and therefore couldn't animate. And that just became the industry standard. And women have always been a minority as a result. Incredible. And even now, and of course we know about, the problems John Lasseter at Pixar.
Yep.
But even at Pixar, which I've been to, and it genuinely does seem like the happiest place on earth, and they've got, cereal bars, as in a room full of cereal for you to have your breakfast. They've got toys, they've got cool stuff, they've got, gyms and swimming pools and everything. It's just an amazing, amazing place. And even there, it's massively sexist historically, and women get kind of shunted into the less creative directory roles and locked out of exactly the kind of roles you're talking about, Candy, with the, exactly out of directing, exactly out of animation leading, and into things that are kind of more executive, more supporting, more producery, more assistive than creative, So yeah, there's still a lot of work to be done in a lot of industries. Same with VFX. I think they're working really hard on it, but I think they would also say they've got a long way to go.
I think potentially from my experience as well, and I don't know if that's across the board, I might have just been unlucky, but I actually did illustration and animation at uni, and it was in a class of, I think, 25, and there were 3 females doing it. So even long before it gets to the point of being hired, there's a division, and I can't understand why that would be at that point.
No reason.
So I just had a quick Google search there on just to find out about female game designers or game developers. And you're right, there's shockingly few of note. But I found this article which says 17 most influential women game developers. I thought this would be the perfect place to look. And the people it's referring to are people like Mabel Addis, whose most famous game was the Sumerian game in 1964.
What?
Yeah.
Or Danielle Berry, 7 Cities of Gold, 1984. Christy Marks, Conquest of Camelot, 1990.
Oh wow!
Roberta Williams, King's Quest series. It's all these it seems
I'm seeing a trend there.
Yeah, so many women are being pushed out. The only ones I can see that are current are Amy Hennig, who's the
she's a writer.
She's a writer, not a games director.
Yeah.
Or Rihanna Pratchett.
I was going to say, yeah.
Or
So that suggests,
Brenda Romero.
like in film, it's getting worse.
Yeah.
It's getting worse, not better.
It's certainly not getting better. Yeah.
We need to make
Helen,
it
can
better. We do.
Can I just ask you about your introduction to your book?
Mm.
How difficult was that to write? Because you're trying to cover so much in your book and trying to cover as much as you can within the realms of, I don't know, pages, time, research, everything.
Yeah.
Your introduction, the amount of things you had to say to try and not offend, upset, explain. This was something else. I just couldn't.
It was more about like
to hear that.
setting it in context a little bit, because I was aware that, I mean, look, the book is laughably overambitious, because I was trying to cover over 100 years of Hollywood history.
It's a lot, obviously, yeah.
From all different angles, and the only common sort of theme is women. And so I kind of had to set myself some rules. So is Hollywood, it's not world film.
Yeah.
And it is, and I sort of laid that out, and I said, it is film, and I've mentioned a few TV shows, but it's not TV really or any of that. And I had to kind of make it clear. And also, like, I had made a real effort throughout the book. I was really conscious that I didn't want this to be a work of sort of white feminism in inverted commas, and just worried about, like, as long as some white women are getting rich, then everything's peachy. And I wanted to kind of be conscious of that and try and be intersectional and inclusive and everything else. And the problem is, of course, none of those women were able to make a mark, and so their stories aren't told. There are no records really, of Black women in the silent era. There are almost no disabled women or women with disabilities in Hollywood history who have had significant ongoing careers. And equally, trans women are beginning to break through. But, I found a couple of very noxious examples of trans women who had gotten jobs in the film industry in the 60s and 80s and were outed and treated horrendously.
Oh, wow.
When the papers realized, who they were. So I kind of wanted to be clear. This is not that I'm not looking for these people. It's that these people were not allowed in the door.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. It's also my problem if I didn't find them. there were more stories out there that I didn't tell. But, I did want to say I have been trying here. I have been trying
I thought it was brilliant. I just just listening to the introduction, I was just like, the things you've had to think about to try and cover and make sure it's very clear, like your agenda in a way is to say, this is what I'm trying to get across. Yeah, no, I thought, wow, what an introduction. I thought a lot of thought must have gone into that.
Yeah, I think that was the last thing I wrote, apart from, like appendices and corrections, obviously. So many corrections.
Excellent. Well, thank you for your contribution there, Candy.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm going to jump onto mine. It's going to be quite quick because I'm not going to lie, I struggled on this one, and just I know there was a lot of, I had a lot of people I wanted to choose in my head, so I just went with Dame Helen Lydia Mirren because I'm a big fan. I'm a really big fan, and the fact that she started from the West End, Shakespeare, love Shakespeare as well, and Prime Suspect's quite a big thing of my formative years. I adored Prime Suspect when I was too young to adore it. So I didn't understand half of it. Do you know, like it's when you're young, like I think I was just bordering on teenage years when I was starting to watch it, and you don't understand it, but you will still appreciate really good work. That's what it was for me as a kid. I'm like, she is brilliant. And now the thing is with Helen Mirren, she has done some really bad films, but who hasn't? Do you know what I mean? But
I was going to say, when you've had a carear that long, you're going to do the old duffer.
Yeah, because
just for your reference, Gadget and Biggie, she does turn up in the Fast series.
Oh yes, she does.
Oh, for God's sakes!
No, I like her in it.
Looking incredible. She's amazing.
Oh yeah,
she looks incredible. What I do like I said, she started in the West End and she's worked her way up. She the accolade. She's the only person to achieve the Triple Crown of acting in both the US and the UK. Now, if you don't know what that is, that's winning Academy Award, a British Academy Film Award, and a Tony Award. That's
and an Emmy.
And an Emmy, yeah.
In the US, and
it's just,
a BAFTA, yeah. Here.
It's just wild, isn't it? It's like that we've all seen The Queen. That is such a sensational film. I've got a few. I've got a thing here. I've got Dean Hardscrabble in Monsters University. I love her in that. I don't know if you've seen that film. But I think she's my favourite character in it. I know it sounds stupid. And unironically, I loved her as Hobson in Arthur. I didn't like Arthur that much, but I loved her in it. So the Arthur remake with Russell Brand.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just think she's just such a powerhouse. Like, you may have met her, Helen, yourself, but
I have.
I wouldn't be able to talk to her. To me, she's the queen.
I was extremely nervous.
Yeah.
So I was doing a big interview with her for Empire. So it was like an hour-long sit-down.
Wow.
I have never prepared so many questions in my life. And yeah, I had like ironed my shirt twice and polished my shoes 3 times, and you name it, I was prepared. But yeah, she's delightful. She's absolutely lovely. I actually asked her about the awards thing. I spoke to her recently about The Duke, which is out next year.
Yes.
It's one of these COVID delayed films. It's delightful when that comes out. Really recommend it. Ooh. But I talked to her about that, and I said, you just need a Grammy to complete the EGOT,
wow, yes.
the Emmy, Grammy, Oscar, Tony. And so, how's that looking? And she goes, I can't rap.
I could see her rapping. I could see
there
it.
is a spoken word category, so I really think she's in with a shot there if she chooses to
Let's
go
not
for it,
forget
so
that Christopher Lee was in a metal band.
Exactly.
Let's never forget that.
A terrible metal band.
Just get on like a fast soundtrack somewhere and just have do part of like a song.
Yeah.
I really do like her in the Fast Hobbs and Shaw as well. I think she's one of the strongest people on there.
Oh God!
Honestly, Gadget. I know you're not seeing it, but she's such a powerhouse in that as well. Everyone's scared of her.
Where are you up to at the moment?
We've
watched 5.
Yeah, we've watched Fast 5.
They did like it. They don't like these films.
What? How don't you like Fast 5?
Fast 5's incredible.
It's the Shakespeare of our
Helen,
time.
It is.
If you like podcasts, listen to our 2
I have to.
It's one of the stupidest things I've ever seen. It's
that's the film.
That's so. It's so far through stupid. It comes out the other side.
It wears its heart on its sleeve. It knows what it is, and it just gets even crazier. Trust me.
I'll tell you why we don't like it.
Why do policemen keep committing crimes?
Yeah, and this is the problem
he gets his man.
Yeah.
the main characters are rubbish.
It's about family,
if it was delivered with somebody else, I think you probably would enjoy it.
What you got to do is like the fun, especially from Fast 5 on, is trying to figure out who's taking it seriously and who absolutely isn't. And like at one end of the spectrum, like Vin Diesel, super serious.
Oh, to women, it's his Citizen Kane, isn't it?
It is absolutely. And then the other end, like you've The Rock and Tyrese,
having a good time,
just like absolutely having a laugh. It's amazing.
It's
poetry.
It's whoever writes these scripts. It's the bit that just keeps sticking out to me from Fast 5 is the first scene with The Rock. When he's giving orders to people, and he's talking to people, and some guy comes up to him and he says, "I've got good news and bad news." He says, "Well, everyone knows I like to eat dessert first." And then he said, "And now give me the veggies."
I love that.
Absolutely amazing.
Wait till you see Helen Mirren, though. Honestly, she steals the show.
Also, if you're wondering who wrote those movies, I think it was Chris Morgan. I think he's written not all, but most. But I really recommend The Onion. Interviews Chris Morgan in inverted commas about Fast 5.
Right. Okay.
Just Google Onion Chris Morgan Fast 5. It's a piece of art in itself, but not as good as Fast 5, which is, as we said, poetry.
It is, like you said, it's Shakespeare of our time. It is I think. I know. I'm a big Fast 8 fan. I don't know why.
Fast 7 or 5. But 5 is my number 1, and Close Behind is number 7, and then there's a bit of a gap. To everything else.
Yeah.
Maybe don't listen to our podcast.
Yeah, they don't like any of them.
I had to edit it, and I'm just like, they're just tearing apart stuff that I like here.
It's so good.
But yeah,
I tell you what, Oodles. Going back to Prime Suspect.
Sorry, yes.
I watched that a couple of years ago, and again. And it's incredible. And again, it shows in the workplace the struggle that her character had with sexism, male-dominated area, and how she got treated as almost like a subplot. But then it started to rear its head a lot more as the seasons went on.
Prime Suspect's so good.
Incredible series.
So I believe that I'm not sure if I've seen it in many, but I think there's a big Blu-ray box set of it, and I want it.
I caught it on Netflix. It was on there still.
Is it? Oh, right.
It was when I watched it a couple of years ago.
Oh, yeah, if you've not watched it, especially if you're a listener and you're young, watch Prime Suspect. It holds up, kinda.
Yes.
Kinda. Kinda.
Yeah,
the usual caveats apply.
Yeah, some of them drive ladders and stuff like that, and the hair's worse than mine. But other than that, yeah. But I just wanted to, I just like Helen Mirren, and I just wanted to say her name on a podcast.
Fair enough.
I just think she's incredible, and long may she reign as the queen of Hollywood.
Now, when I do think of Helen Mirren, I think of that awful interview with Parkinson. Do you remember that one?
Yes.
And
Oh yes.
Completely sexist the whole way. He essentially introduced her as a slut.
Yep.
Like giving her her
It's
introduction.
notorious.
Yeah, absolutely vile. And, to begin with, the audience were kind of playing along to him. They were tittering at all these remarks. That he was trying to belittle her and trying to get a rise out of her.
Yeah,
and,
I never understood why. She just seems so lovely.
Well, she's a beautiful woman, and when she was younger, she
still is.
wasn't afraid of she wasn't afraid of nudity or anything.
Yes.
But when she starts talking, and once you hear how intelligent she is and how well spoken, and she just had the audience captivated. And every time that Parkinson tried to make a comment, there was just nothing. Like people just listening to her because she just had complete command of the whole room.
Yeah, exactly. I just think she's incredible, and I am a big Helen Mirren stan. Big style, and yeah. So we'll move on to Stig.
Okay, I'm going to cheat slightly.
So
I've gone for European cinema.
We said Hollywood.
Totally fine.
Go on,
I had to love. I'll have to. Sorry about the pronunciation. You might have to help me out with this one. Celine Sciamma. Is that how you say her second name?
Sciamma, I think.
Sciamma, yeah. So she's a French screenwriter and film director. Probably most known now for Portrait of a Lady on Fire. But before that, she directed 3 other feature-length films, as well as being a writer on other films like Being 17 and My Life as a Courgette. She's a common theme with her films is fluidity and gender and sexual identity among girls and women. So she said, obviously, as a gay woman in her 40s, she grew up without the internet and a serious lack of media that focused on LGBTQ stories, that she couldn't find stuff that she could relate to, so she's created her own. And her work's brilliant. I think it's she's a proper gifted author, and she kind of films enough sparse dialogue, but they're tender and empathetic. And her directorial debut was a story she wrote when she was in film school, kind of mirrored aspects of her life as a teenager. So it's a 2007 film called Water Lilies. I'm probably just going to go through her films here because she's only directed 4 films, with her 5th film coming out later this year. So Water Lilies is a coming-of-age film that tells the story of a teenage girl who falls in love with one of the girls in a local synchronized swimming team. And it kind of deals with the relationship she also has with her best friend, who has this infatuation with one of the boys from the swimming team. So there's a lot of awkwardness, teenage crush kind of stuff going on. But Sciamma and the 2 leads, they capture the uncertainty of teenage sexuality with sympathetic eye in this delicate drama, and it's really good. I don't know, her films are they're not aimed at me at all, but I can appreciate just how good the writing is and how good the direction is and stuff. And so a follow-up film, Tomboy, is a film about gender identity. These are all French films. And it's about 2 daughters, 10-year-old Laurie and 6-year-old Jean. Yeah.
We'll accept it.
Yeah. Who then moved to a neighbourhood during the summer holidays. With her tomboy ways, Laurie is immediately mistaken for a boy by the local kids and passes herself off as Michael. This is the one I haven't seen. I wanted to try and get this watched before today, but I just didn't have time. I was hoping to watch it today, but after kind of the last few days in London...
Big London trip.
Yeah, I wasn't really feeling up for it, unfortunately. But if you go on Rotten Tomatoes and Letterboxd and things like that, there's just positive opinions about the film. It's described as brisk, precisely observed, brazenly non-preachy in its examination of a very tricky subject. But this next one, Girlhood, I really, really enjoyed this. I thought this is a brilliant film. So again, this is a coming-of-age drama like the others, and this is centered around a young black teenager from a poor Paris suburb. Oppressed by a family setting dead-end school prospects and boys' law in the neighbourhood, Mariam starts a new life after meeting a group of three free-spirited girls. She changes her name, a dress code, and quits school in an attempt to be accepted by the gang. But yeah, this one again, she's just got this brilliant way of telling these stories. This story is centered around the black neighborhood, and all the characters are black. And despite Sciamma's race, and she describes herself as middle class, she has a finger on the pulse for these films. These aren't kind of her background with this. This film isn't anywhere, but she just does a brilliant job of telling the stories. Yeah. Like outside of the storytelling as well, you can see in this film as well how much she's grown as a filmmaker, I think. So from like her first film to this, specifically the way characters are framed and the cinematography. There's a scene with the girls in the hotel room, and it plays out like a music video to Rihanna's Diamonds. That plays in the background, and it's like full of energy.
I like that song as well.
Yeah, but like it plays. I think the whole song plays, and it seems odd to put what is essentially a little bit like a music video in this story, but it really works because it's kind of the moment where she bonds with the other girls. And I also really like the fact that the casting of this film, they actually scouted people from the streets of Paris to like make it more authentic. I think they're similar with the film Rocks did something recently with Bucky Bakri. Rather than going to like stage actors and people with more acting, they
scruffing them up.
Yeah, they went directly to like the kind of the source and get a more authentic, performance and stuff. And then there's Portrait of a Lady on Fire,
which you've waxed lyrical about this on this podcast.
Incredible. It's a masterpiece. It's my favourite film of last year.
Yeah.
Knocked Hamilton off the top spot, unfortunately, for Hamilton.
And you've seen Hamilton how many times?
That's fair.
6 or 7. That's your fault, Helen.
I'm sorry. No, I'm not sorry.
No, don't be sorry. It's incredible.
Yeah. I will actually say, that time I interviewed Helen Mirren for all that time, so I had to fly to New York to interview her. And that's when I went and saw Hamilton.
Oh, wow.
So I have Helen Mirren to thank for getting to see the original cast.
Wow.
You got to see the original cast as well. I'm waiting until I can get down to London to go see it at the down in London. But yeah,
I can imagine you stood up dancing and singing along.
I know the soundtrack off by heart.
That's what I'm thinking.
Like, my kids get really annoyed when I put it on. They're just like, Hamilton again. Portrait of a Lady on Fire, like, again, I think her skills as a filmmaker just go through the roof with this one. I watched an interview with her, and she talked about how she couldn't decide on whether she wanted to go digital or use film. And they went digital in the end, and she said it was the correct decision, and I couldn't agree more because every frame in this film is just stunning. Like I said, I talked about this film about this time last year, was it?
Yeah, roughly.
That's about right.
You got me to watch it anyway.
Yeah,
I loved it.
It's just there's so many shots in this film that look like paintings. Like obviously the film's about it's not all about the painting and stuff, but that's one of the aspects, and that's kind of how she's made the film look as well. And you obviously talked about how so many films are done from the male gaze, and this film obviously completely flips that to do it from the female for it.
I think it's a refreshing film as well. It's just
it's gorgeous.
Yeah. Everyone needs to. I could go on forever about this film, to be honest. So I don't want to take up.
You've done that before.
Everyone needs to watch this film.
I agree.
Intense,
so good,
beautiful, and that last 5 minutes, it's kind of left me breathless. Really, like the ending when it was going on, I was like, this seems to be dragging out a bit, and then
it makes sense.
As it goes on, you're like, oh yeah, okay, and then right at the end, you're just like, yeah, get it.
Just kicks it in the gut. It's amazing, yeah. And I will say, I saw Petite Maman, her new one recently, and it's like 75 minutes long. It's practically a TV show, and it's superb. It's absolutely beautiful. Couldn't be lovelier.
Yeah, I mean, it was actually Terry White that, because she was praising Portrait of a Lady on Fire so much. And I was like, I'm going to have to watch this. I think Mark Kermode as well had praised it a load. And I was like, I'm just going to have to watch this. And eventually when I watched it, I was like, it's so good. Like,
I love getting these word of mouth little like films that you just wouldn't think, and then you're like, when you watch it, it's like mouth agape. I can't believe I wouldn't have watched Portrait of a Girl on Fire ever. It's just not my. But Stig just It worked. It worked. So yeah, I think it's brilliant.
I think she's brilliant, and like I said, I think she's growing better as she's gone on, like with each film. I'm looking forward to actually getting to see Tomboy when I can. But I will say as well, with her writing, I'm not sure how much she was involved with My Life as a Courgette, but that's a brilliant film. Really, really enjoyed. That's all about identity as self-identity and things like that as well. It's not, for a film called My Life as a Courgette, you think it's going to be some kind of whimsical show, but it's not. There's a lot of stuff in there about drinking and I think suicide and things like that. But yeah, that's a really great film. But yeah, just want to say one last thing on her. Like I said, none of these films are characters I really identify with, but the sheer like heartfelt and beautiful nature of her films is what stands out to me. And I found
She's done her job then, isn't she?
Yes, exactly.
I found this review on Letterboxd, which I think sums it up, which I'm going to read. This is about girlhood. And this person says, I'm a black girl, I'm French, I'm from a poor neighbourhood. I never felt as happy to be this girl as when I watched this film. Seeing people that look like my friends liked me on the big screen as heroines, seeing friendship, love, and most importantly, youth through the faces of black girls, that's something I'll never forget.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you love it.
Yeah, if she's making people feel like that, and as well as being able to entertain a white 30-year-old, then 35-year-old. You know what I mean? She's just hitting every nail perfectly. Like, and I just can't wait to see more of her stuff.
I think it can only get better, really, can't it?
Yeah,
absolutely brilliant. Thank you for that, Steak. We're going to jump on to Biggie because I'm conscious of time.
Yeah, I mean, again, something similar. I was torn between two. And for our honourable mentions, I'll obviously talk about the one I didn't choose. So I am going to choose, again, Toni Collette.
Oh, yeah, there we go.
For Helen, in case you weren't aware, we did our own awards called the Biggies.
All right, very good.
And we got to choose who we thought deserved, that was obviously either nominated, didn't win, never got a nomination, etc. And I did choose Toni then.
For Hereditary?
Yeah.
Yes,
generally?
definitely
just in general as well.
Right, okay.
But again, I'll cover what I think personally for me, what I've liked about her work.
Can we just quickly roll back? Portrait of a Lady on Fire deserved more award recognition. So I'm going to give a Biggie to that film.
Yeah, you can give Biggies whenever you want. Even though the ceremony is recorded, you can give them out all year.
It's like an achievement that pops up at the top of the screen.
Yeah,
awarded a Biggie.
You can have a Biggie. Well, you can't have one. You've got to earn one.
Quite right.
Very true. But yeah, I mean, for those who don't actually know much about Toni Collette, she is actually Australian. And apart from her work in television, independent films, she has basically received lots of accolades throughout her career, including Golden Globe Awards, Primetime Emmy Awards, Academy Awards, Tony Awards, and 2 British Academy Film Awards. Her breakout role was, of course, in Muriel's Wedding.
Yep.
She got a Golden Globe nomination for that. But apart from the success that did come with that, she really hit the spotlight with, of course, The Sixth Sense.
Yeah, that's where I think I first saw her.
I was the same. And she got nominated for Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress for that.
Oh, yeah.
For me, apart from everybody else in that movie, because, let's face it, Haley Joel Osment was fantastic in that. Even Bruce Willis delivered a
Bruce Willis was Bruce Willis in that.
But in a good way.
Yeah, in a good Bruce. Good Bruce. There is good and bad
When he's
Bruce.
interested.
Yeah. Yeah, when he turns up.
He wasn't stuck trying to jump off a building or anything.
Yeah.
But for me, her performance as the single mum Lynn throughout that movie, because her scenes are sort of just here and there. She sort of, it's not always focused on her at all. But every scene she's in, she's fantastic. As she plays the single mum desperately trying to support her little boy Cole, who to her appears to be struggling socially with the other kids and trying to understand why he's so different and also disturbed, I guess, from her eyes. She nails that guilt and frustration every scene. And, of course, the final emotional scene in the car between Lynn and Cole.
God, yeah.
As he explains that he has actually seen her mum, and not only did her mum see that dance recital that she performed that day, but heard the question.
She starts crying and stuff.
gave an answer just gets me every time, even though I've seen this film so many times and it's brilliant. But just her reaction to Cole, it's just incredible. And what I love about Toni Collette, I'm going to come to Hereditary again, is that when she performs, I forget it's Toni Collette.
Yeah.
For me, for an actor to make you forget who they are and that you fall for the character they're playing is them doing their job.
That's the ultimate thing you can say, though, isn't it? If I don't realise it's you.
I think she delivers it every time.
Well, she always comes across so warm and happy in interviews and stuff. And I have been known to accidentally say in a podcast before that she's got a painful face when I meant a Payne's face. She does Payne's very, very well.
Yeah, there is a big difference.
Very, very important.
She absolutely does not have a painful face. But she can do a really pained expression, and the contrast between that and seeing her being interviewed, and you really do sort of see what an incredible actress she is.
Yeah, she's amazing. Hereditary for me is one of the great performances of the last decade.
I think it's one of the best horror films ever made.
Yeah, also that.
It is for me. A lot of people don't like the ending, but I was all over it.
All over it. Yeah.
I've only watched it recently as well, so I'm just.
Oh my god.
I am new to Hereditary, but yeah, I get it. I get the praise. I get it.
And for me, because in Hereditary, it's an uncomfortable study of grief and loss as well.
It is.
How it impacts on all members of her family as well. I know it has that creepy supernatural force that sort of engulfs the family. But having experienced a sudden loss in my family as well when my niece was killed in a car crash, the various stages of grief were so incredibly portrayed throughout this movie. As the days go on and it's portrayed how the different stages of how it impacts on her. And yeah, I mean, I think I read an interview on her where she was doing like 14 takes for some of the scenes. I mean, can you imagine delivering that sort of emotion time and time again, trying to, obviously, for the director to nail it.
Wow.
Big fan of Ari Aster.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, the change of pace as the movie goes along and delivers that terrifying climax. Again, I've waxed lyrical enough about Toni Collette. But she's done a lot of other stuff as well. Period comedies, dramas. She was on Broadway. I'm currently watching her in a TV series which I didn't even realise she was in. I missed this one called Unbelievable, which is a true story based on a serial rapist. She plays a detective of all things. But again, she's playing the role fantastically. You really believe that she's got this sort of history about her being a detective, although you know nothing about her when you meet her in this show. It's just, I'm just such a fan. And I just feel like, I don't believe she's had the Oscar yet, and I feel like it should come her way.
Well, she's got a biggie at least.
Really,
it's bigger, isn't it? It's a better award. It's a better award. Excellent. Thank you, sir, for that. We're going to jump to Helen now.
Yeah. I was trying to
narrow it down.
Balance somebody. Yeah, I was trying to balance somebody who had done good work, but also kind of made social change.
Yeah,
right.
Yes, absolutely.
So I'm going to be very predictable and go for Ava DuVernay, who I think gets talked about a lot, but rightly so. So she decided she wanted to get into making films and realized how difficult it was going to be, not just as a woman, but as a black woman.
Yeah.
And so started off with documentaries. And this is something that quite a few of the female directors I spoke to started off that way, because there's no one to tell you no, because the budgets are so small. So you can kind of get in without going through those gatekeepers. So DuVernay had some success with her documentary. She then got the chance to make Selma. She knocked it out of the park. So good. Best Picture nomination. I think she was the first African-American woman to be Golden Globe nominated. And then but she didn't get the Oscar nomination. And I think that is kind of significant. I think there is still this tendency to sometimes award the film and not the director if the film is made by a lady or is about ladies. So she's kept going and it seemed to kind of vanish from films for a little bit. It seemed like there wasn't that big follow-up that you might expect after Selma.
Did she do a show?
She did. Well, this is what I'm going to get to. But she did have some meetings with Marvel first, for example. And I think she was in line to do either Black Panther or Captain Marvel. I'm not sure which. I would like to say she was in line for like Thor 3 or something unconnected to her identity. But realistically, it was probably one of the other two.
Let's be real.
But no, she then became, I think, the the female director who'd had the biggest budget ever when she made A Wrinkle in Time, which wasn't hugely successful. That didn't matter so much because she had, as you say, yes, gone back to documentaries and made The 13th, which is a stunning and horrifying film about the legal system basically in the US and the rates of incarceration for black men in particular, but black people in general. And also When They See Us, which is one of the most devastating dramas of the past few years. That drama is genuinely like a gut punch. It's absolutely astonishing. If people haven't seen it yet, yes, I know it does take. It takes a little bit of a run up
because it's so
horrible.
But
it's so horrible, but it's only 4 episodes, so you can, you can kind of power through it. But yeah, it does take a little bit of a run up, and it kind of. It's one of these things where you're like, if these people went through this, I can make it through watching it.
I know there is that. I should continue with it.
So her activism in her work has been really important, but her activism behind the scenes has been enormously important, and I think is going to have real effects on Hollywood going forward, because she produced Queen Sugar for Oprah's network, and she has made it a point to get in female directors, to get in women of color, to open the doors to people who were not getting opportunities, and then they have some stuff on their CV that they can then build on and use to get more stuff, that they have that calling card, they have that professional work. So that's been really important, and she's followed that up with just endless initiatives and moves to kind of improve representation, particularly recently Array, which is it's basically a database of crew members who are not straight, white, cis, able-bodied straight men. So it's if people are if there are producers out there who are saying, well, I would love to get a more equal crew, but I just don't know where to find them. This is the answer. There's no excuse. And I have to say, like, she's not the only person doing this. There's actually a British actress called Victoria Emsley who set up a thing called Primetime, which does the same thing for women here it's actually around the world, but she started it here in the UK. So this is not the only one of these happening, but it's so important. And it's not just women, of course, in Ava's case, it's all people of color. So it's just, she's just doing the work and changing the situation. And I think that's something that we've begun to see, not just from her, but she's a really good example of it. But we've begun to see in the past few years where women were encouraged, and I think all minorities, but women in particular, were encouraged to think of each other as competition in Hollywood for the last 100 years, because there really were only 3 decent roles a year. So if Meg Ryan got it, then Julia Roberts was out of luck, or whatever. And it has been a competition because there have been so few opportunities. And I think that is what's changing. And you're now getting people like Ava who are lifting other women up and making that really core to everything that they do. And that's what I hope is going to change the picture going forward.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm going to continue with...
When They See Us.
Yeah, when they
it's one of those titles as well.
I always thought it was when they don't see us, but yeah, it's when they see us. Yeah, I want to continue with that because, like you said, if they've gone through it, I could at least appreciate and watch it.
It's important to watch as well, isn't it? Things like that. It's not a pleasant watch, but
struggle though.
If it, yeah,
and I don't mean bad struggle, as in it's badly made. It's just.
There's something very harrowing about any denial of justice movies, I find, and this may be my particular background as a Northern Irish Catholic, but like there's something very it shakes your faith in right and wrong. You feel like, okay, well, yes, they're in prison, but they're a bad person, and it's not that simple for many people, and I think it's really important to point that out. So
excellent. Brilliant pick. Gadget, follow that.
Well, I struggle with this not so much in terms of actually picking someone, but actually narrowing it down. Because
that's what my issue was.
There was a few that kind of sprung to mind. I mean, one I'll say that would go into the honorable mentions in the Patreon bit, but it's just because she's incredible, and you need to look her up, which is Wendy Carlos, who did the soundtrack for Tron and The Shining, and also happened to be a trans woman in the 70s and 80s, and she's incredible.
Yeah.
But the one I'm actually going to talk about in detail is inspired by Helen's book, because she reminded me of this woman's existence, Mae West.
Mae West.
Mae West. One of the legends of... of the old-timey cinema when people talk like this.
When the world was
Well,
black
she
and white.
did romance. She did romance Cary Grant and all on screen. So
Really?
That's the first time I've understood what you've said, Gadget.
How dare you? So Mae West was a classically trained stage actor, Broadway actor, and then moved into cinema. Not at the beginning of cinema. It was actually quite late into the creation of it, around about the time that morality clauses were a thing and the censorships were a thing. So somewhere in the 1930s, I think it was that she joined. 1932. There it was. Oddly enough, her first film she released when she was 40, which was
wow.
quite strange because obviously you would expect young starlets coming to Hollywood, but no, she was quite a successful Broadway actor. She might have had the filthiest mouth in film at the time.
Really?
And took great pleasure in pissing off the censors to no degree. She is quite notable for the fact that for all the roles that she got, she managed to rewrite all of her dialogue to suit her own humor and still giving the message that the original intention was to write, but putting her own jokes in and putting her own double entendres and everything. And every line that she delivered was dripping in double entendres. And I'll go through some quotes in a bit, but it's mostly just the fact that she was an absolute badass in this time when women were really kind of restricted in what they could do through morality clauses. She didn't give a fuck. She dealt with the fine. She went to prison for 8 days because she wrote a play on Broadway called Sex.
She was arrested immediately as soon as the curtains drew as well, wasn't she?
Yeah,
There's another one called Drag. I think she was also arrested for drag.
Yep.
Yeah.
So ahead of her time.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And she didn't care because all that controversy just added to ticket sales.
You see, with Mae West, I don't know much about her, but as soon as I see a picture of her, I know exactly who it is. She's so iconic.
Just sort of such a kind of bombastic presence, isn't she? She's sort of what you would describe as larger than life, I think.
Very much so. Yeah.
She's also kind of reasonably responsible for kind of Cary Grant's big break, as in she says, "I need him in my movie now," kind of thing. And
who among us would not?
Well,
I mean, come
true.
on.
I mean, yeah. And she did quite a number of films with him. I believe it was like 5 or 6 films with him across the kind of the 1930s. At one point in 1935, she was the highest paid woman and second highest paid person in the United States.
Wow.
The only person who was paid more than her was William Randolph Hearst, who was a newspaper publisher and would be a billionaire by today's standards.
Yeah. Old money.
Yeah, not a bad position to be in for Mae West, to be fair.
Not at all. That's proper power, that.
Do you know what? I made a note from your book, Helen, that some people were so concerned by her that they said that they needed to watch her like they watched Hitler or something like that.
Yes, that was the censors.
Wow.
Yeah, like they
thought she was a bigger threat than Hitler.
That much influence.
Yeah. It's crazy.
I think they misjudged Hitler there, didn't they?
I mean, I think ultimately, a little bit.
Well, Sorry, she was absolutely effervescent on screen, and she was such a huge draw for cinema across the 1930s. Like, her film career lasted, maybe 10, 15 years or something like that before she decided she'd had enough of it and went back to Broadway and to the stage where kind of her real passions lay. But yeah, she became one of the wealthiest people in the world. She was one of the most influential voices out there, and she was a huge draw. Yeah. She also it was one of her films. I'm trying to find it here. I've got so many notes on her that I've lost where it was. Oh yeah, the She Done Him Wrong in 1933.
She Done Him Wrong. I love that.
Yeah. Saved Paramount because Paramount was on the verge of bankruptcy.
Wow.
And there is a building on the lot named after Mae West now.
Good.
In gratitude for that. But that grossed over $2 million in 1933, which is the equivalent of $140 million-ish today.
Wow.
But some of her greatest quotes, and like I say, she wrote all these herself. These weren't screenwriters giving it to her. I've got to list them here. It's not the men in my life that count, it's the life in my men. A hard man is good to find.
Is that it?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Rather than a good man is hard to find, a hard man is good to find.
Oh yeah. I like that.
I'll try anything once, twice if I like it, 3 times to make sure.
I've said on this podcast I'll try anything twice. I wonder if I'm channeling Mae West.
When choosing between two evils, I always like to try the one I've never tried before.
Oh, yes.
I know that one.
Too much of a good thing can be wonderful.
Yeah.
And
Isn't there one like, goodness, how did you get these furs? Goodness had nothing to do with it.
yes.
Oh, yeah. I like that.
You only live once, but if you do it right, once is enough.
Once is enough, yeah.
And my absolute favorite one, and this one's been quoted endlessly. Like if you watch RuPaul's Drag Race, one of the drag queens played Mae West, and this was like the killer line that came out. It says, "When I'm good, I'm very good, but when I'm bad, I'm better."
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the famous one, isn't
That's
it?
classic.
Yeah. One
What
of
an
the famous
absolute
ones-
queen.
She's, why don't you come up sometime and see me? As well. Like
Yeah, and she, I think she also coined.
Is that a gun in your pocket?
Yeah, is that a gun in your pocket? Are you happy to see
Really?
me?
You just
Pleased to
see
see
me.
me.
Yeah.
Wow.
Mm.
Brilliant.
And,
Amazing writer.
yeah, and I used to be Snow White, but I drifted.
I drifted.
Like she's an absolute legend, and she doesn't get recognised enough in kind of modern society. She's because it was the 1930s and 1940s. The films are kind of the only people who really talk about her are like real film buffs and like people who are really interested in classic cinema. She doesn't get brought up enough in kind of modern conversation. But she was absolutely brilliant, and just if you watch any clips of her, even just go on YouTube and watch clips of her films, your eye is constantly drawn to her. Even in the days of black and white, she just had this like personality that just drew all the attention towards it. Didn't matter who she was acting as. I mean, Cary Grant's incredible,
Yeah.
but no one gives a shit about Cary Grant when Mae West is on screen.
No, she was amazing. And she lived the life off screen. She had lots of boxer boyfriends, gangster boyfriends.
Yeah.
She knew
had
how to
a pet
live.
monkey. She had a pet monkey who apparently ran off with some of her diamonds at one point.
Oh yeah, maybe right.
I mean, she
Saying
just
about that.
managed all of her own publicity as well. You know, she would come up with these stories when anything got boring.
Yeah,
I guess that's the problem with streaming services, is that they're not interested in classic cinema
No.
like that. So you're having to rely on just general TV, aren't you, to see any sort of reruns of classic movies, because they're just not going to be interested in that, aren't
Well,
they?
I wonder
I'm
if a
sorry,
lot of it
I thought
hasn't been
I thought you were going to
digitized.
say the problem with streaming services is there are not enough monkeys stealing diamonds.
I mean, there is that
Yeah,
issue
but
as
that is-
well.
I have
noted that.
Yeah,
Sorry, kind of interrupted.
No, I was just saying I wonder if a part of that problem is that a lot of the classics haven't been digitized. So it's just not even possible to watch it.
There is that, yeah. Excellent
Not gonna
pick
just
anyway.
sit
So
Money,
the last thing I'll say
Go
about
on.
Mae West is, and this is just a thing I didn't even know about this because it wasn't in Helen's book, but it was on her Wikipedia page.
Oh.
She appeared in sketches on a radio show, which was the ventriloquist Edgar Bergen's radio show. I don't know how ventriloquism works on the radio, mind you.
You've got to
Oh,
suspend
he was a
your
big
disbelief.
star at that point. Yeah,
But yeah.
he was a really big star. He's in
Yeah.
some of the Disney animation of the time.
Oh, wow.
Edward Bergen.
So in the interview, she was going there to promote the film called Every Day is a Holiday, and it says here, I'm just going to read this verbatim
Do
because
it.
it's an incredible set of words in the order that they come in. Appearing as herself, West flirted with Charlie McCarthy, Bergen's dummy, using her usual brand of wit and risque sexual references. West referred to Charlie as all wood and a yard long, and commented, "Charles, I remember our last date, and I have the splinters to prove it." West was on the verge of being banned from radio for that.
That's bad now. Never mind then.
And it just typifies her approach to life and self-promotion.
Oh, what a badass.
She did get in a little bit of trouble for that one.
I bet.
Yeah.
But
The FCC deemed the broadcast vulgar and indecent and far below even the minimum standard for which should control the selection and production of broadcast programs. Apparently.
Excellent. Brilliant. Thank you very much, all, one and all, and especially Mae West. What we're going to do now, we're going to see if we've got any correspondence from our listeners and see who they've chosen.
Oh, people have absolutely loved it this week. There's loads of them.
Yes.
So I'm going to rattle through them as quick as I can. Adam Golightly has said, the first two that spring to mind for me are Carrie Fisher, simply because I grew up
Amazing.
watching and loving Star Wars,
Yep.
and then Sandra Bullock, who appears to have covered all genres over the last 30 or so years.
Let's not forget Speed 2.
no, let's forget Speed 2.
Oh, we know.
Charlie Ridgewell has given me a name I can't pronounce. Julia Ducournau?
Ducournau.
Ducournau, thank you. Is everything that is great about cinema. I haven't seen Titan yet, but Raw was the perfect example of blending genres effortlessly. And he says, coming of age / outsider at school / cannibal film. What?
That was brilliant.
That's a nice juxtaposition of things, isn't it?
Yeah. He also goes on to say Jennifer Kent has provided 2 effortless films with deep
amazing.
meaning. One, a portrait of grief in a home. The other, a brutal but meaningful film of revenge, loss, and power.
Yeah.
Just
She's incredible.
Yeah.
Have you seen Titan yet, Helen?
I have not seen Titan yet. I am Titan, I believe. No, annoyingly, I was in Cannes, but not for the right week. I was only there for a few days, and I have not been able to go to all of the London Film Festival, and I've missed it here too. So it's very frustrating. I feel like a very bad film journalist for not seeing it yet.
You can't see them
Where'd you get
all.
all the time to watch it?
I know. I just feel bad. I'm not seeing enough.
Oh, you can't see them all.
Dominic Skelton is agreeing with another one from your book, Helen. Lynn Ramsey is shockingly underappreciated.
Amazing.
I'm convinced You Were Never Really Here would have had a hatful of awards if a more fashionable, probably male director had made it.
100%. That is the award that Joaquin Phoenix should have got.
Yes, so good.
Not the other
it's
one that I
incredible.
won't mention.
Not the other one.
It's incredible.
Everything about that film is fantastic.
It is. It's
Yeah.
it's spellbinding. Brilliant.
Just besides that, it's very funny that Joaquin Phoenix made 2 very similar films with the same kind of subject matter in a row.
It's really good.
Yeah. But one is really good, and the other one is Joker.
John Shepard says, at the moment, Florence Pugh is owning every film she's in. That girl is an Oscar winner in the making.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Midsummer.
Yeah,
Midsummer's great.
Fighting
And
with
also
My
she-
Family. That's a good one.
She made me like Amy in Little Women. I have spent my entire life not liking Amy in Little Women. So that was a bit of a...
That's a great,
Although
a great
I did have
adaptation
to
as well.
suspend my yeah, it's a brilliant film. That's suspend my disbelief. Just a bit that I didn't realise that she was playing like a 10 or 11
14,
year old.
14 year
14,
old.
yeah.
at the
I didn't
beginning,
realise that at first until like after
Yeah.
the film and I'd read up about it. I was
Yeah.
like, oh. But yeah, the film's brilliant.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
John goes on to say both Prano Bailey Bond and Rose Glass have had stunning horror debuts recently with Censor and Saint Maud.
Yeah.
And also Nia DaCosta has recently been successful with Candyman. Horror feels totally different coming from a female perspective, often giving their characters much more feeling and depth, but making the inevitable horror more frightening because of the investment we put into the people on screen.
I still haven't seen Candyman. Still haven't seen it.
It's pretty fascinating. I think it's really... I don't love it as much as Saint Maud and Censor, both of which I just blew my mind, but I would agree. I think it's a really exciting time for horror. The dirty secret of horror is that women have always been a very big part of horror audiences. Like something like 60% of horror audiences are female. Yeah. And you wouldn't really know it from the advertising, the way horror is talked about. But women love horror, and I think that generation maybe is beginning to come up and then now make films, and I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, and you know those ones we've talked about, Jennifer Kent, Prana Bailey Bond, and Rose Glass are just doing such incredible work, and it's a really good time.
Well, I think horror stagnated after Hostel. Really, that sort of it was all gore and
now.
nothing else.
Yeah. I've got quite a
horror's having
a low threshold for gore. I'm not really that into it. I get a bit nauseous with it, so
it's not scary, is it? It's just gross. You're not
it's just
frightened.
a grind.
Yeah.
I
think Midsummer was the one for me.
Films, since being with my wife.
Does she love them?
Absolutely loves horror films. It's just like, and to the point where sometimes it's just like, have you got like, do you know if there's any like really shit horror films out on Netflix or Amazon that we could
Killer
watch?
Clowns from Outer Space.
I'm just like,
I'll give you a list.
I'm like, oh, this film Censor's meant to be really good. Should we watch that? And for whatever reason, she has to be in the right mood for those ones because otherwise, it's just no. I'd rather watch some
Nightmare on Elm Street.
I've seen so many bad ones.
I'm not a big horror lover, but the ones I have seen that I've really enjoyed have been ones where it's almost like the classic style of horror, like the kind of the misdirect horror is not necessarily gory or anything like. Although to be fair, I think the last horror film I watched was The Woman in Black, the one with Daniel Radcliffe.
Oh yeah, that was scary. That was genuinely scary.
That was really good because it was tension all the way through, and that's the kind of horror I like.
Helen, can you ask Gadget to watch Seven?
Yes,
please?
can you?
Oh, I mean, I haven't gone back to it in years, but I mean, that blew my mind the first time I saw that.
I've never seen Seven.
I'll tell you what's really impressive, and I don't know if it's probably still out there on the internet. I don't know how you would exactly Google it, but the original trailer for Seven made it look like a slightly darker than normal buddy cop movie.
I remember. I've heard of that. Yeah, and there's.
It was.
Oh, what was it?
I'll have to see if I can find it.
I mean, it looks a little bit dark. I'm not saying it's not, but like it doesn't look anything like Seven. and then you see 7, and it stays in your head.
It's quite
for the
a
rest of your
slow
life.
burn at the beginning, isn't it? 7. It's like
It is.
It takes a while.
I mean,
It's brilliant.
It will haunt you. So this is not a completely.
Oh, that's helpful.
I mean, this is not a without caveats, but
Yeah.
I'm glad I have seen it.
yeah, same.
I have not gone back to it in recent years. I've seen it. It's on one of the services, and I've sort of been
Right.
like,
I haven't seen it.
I'm not sure I'm ready.
I haven't seen it for a
I
decade.
will watch it.
That was something we talked about the other week, wasn't it? About things being missold to you.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
that's one
Yeah.
thing I really, I was did, wouldn't I? And
Yeah, it's one of
You
our
said-
picks.
that's not what I thought it was. Oh God, Game Night.
Game night.
You thought
Yeah,
it
Game
was,
Night.
Yeah.
You didn't realise it was a comedy.
Yeah,
The trailer didn't make it look like a comedy.
yeah, when the trailers
And,
came out,
Colossal.
it looked really dark, and it was just like, I'm not really bothered about seeing this. And then it wasn't. That was obviously years ago when it first came out. And Stig mentioned it. He says, "Oh, it's actually a really funny comedy." I'm like, "Is it?"
Yeah,
So I watched it about 3 weeks,
like
5
Candy
weeks
said
ago. And it
with
was
Colossal.
amazing.
I thought it was a kaiju film. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not.
No.
And
much not.
Smoking Aces as
Smoking
well.
Aces, yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
And the Fast and the Furious
Oh,
movies.
leave them alone. Stop bullying her.
And hey, and there is a thing we've talked about tonight that appears to be one genre and is actually another, but I won't say what it is because
yes.
at least one subgenre, and it's another subgenre.
Yes.
That's it.
We're conscious on spoilers.
Right. Pushing on, Jamie Kelwick says, Deborah Chow is a director to keep your eye on.
Mm.
She's directed many episodes of The Mandalorian and has directed all of the Obi-Wan series that's coming next year, I think.
Yeah.
Also, Kate Herron is one to watch, the British director who's brought us Sex Education and Loki. I loved Loki.
Yeah, she's a
Yes.
delight.
I've just
Yeah,
started watching
she's-
Sex Education this week. Oh, it's
I was kind of
Good.
disappointed to hear that she wasn't going to come and do Loki season 2.
Oh, that is disappointing.
I assume that's because she's doing something even more exciting.
Yes,
I have not
hopefully.
got any.
I adored Loki.
Inside
I mean,
line on that,
me
but,
and Stig did a full podcast on every episode, and
Yeah.
it's,
Yeah, I loved it.
I think it's,
Yeah.
it's
No Marvel
transcendent.
fanfare
that.
like yours, though.
Oh, it's amazing. Yeah, we do a lot of Marvel, but Loki I thought it's my favorite.
It's my favourite. I was saying that.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, WandaVision. No, Loki's my favourite.
WandaVision was great,
yeah.
but Loki was better.
I can't stop listening to the soundtrack.
it's
The
so
soundtrack
good.
is just, it's incredible. He goes on to say, when it comes to actors, I've always loved Helen Mirren, Kate Blanchett, Julianne Moore, and whatever they do. As for ones to keep an eye on, Daisy Edgar Jones was amazing in Normal People. Emma McKay, Amy Lee Wood, and Mimi Keane from Sex Education are brilliant young actresses.
Yeah.
Newton Thomas says Drew Barrymore. From child actor to major Hollywood producer, while overcoming addiction to become one of the nicest and most down to earth humans in the industry today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen her in that. What's that one where she was a zombie or something? Is that?
Oh yeah.
Oh, the TV
Yeah.
show. It was the show,
with
wasn't
Timothy
it?
Olyphant.
Yeah, I really like that.
It's brilliant.
Oh, San Clarita
That's it,
Diet.
yeah.
Santa Clarita
I really
Diet,
like
well
that.
done.
And they
Oh, well
fucking
remembered.
cancelled it
Yeah.
on a cliffhanger, the bastards.
That was really, and she was brilliant in that. And Timothy Olyphant trying not to be good looking in it. It's ridiculous.
There are some things that you just like.
Yeah.
There's suspension of disbelief, and
You
then there's
can't
like,
do
come
it.
on, dude, come on, yeah, no.
I agree so hard with Bobby Wayne here because he says, I'm happy to see Jodie Comer making her Hollywood debut with Free Guy. She's a fantastic actress that's worked her way from guest roles on British TV
Yeah.
to leading roles on TV to bit parts in movies, and now she's showing off her acting chops in a Hollywood blockbuster and demonstrating her range of skills. While there's many great women that have been in Hollywood for a long time, Jodie is someone I'm excited to see more in the future. She is so good.
Her accent,
Like-
I didn't realise that was a
was just
real
gonna say,
accent.
yeah.
I didn't understand a
Scouse,
word she said.
actually.
Okay, well, that's the brilliance of her in Killing Eve because she just
Yeah.
filters through all these different accents
Yeah.
so
Killing
Killing
convincingly.
Eve. Oof.
So good. One I know you'll enjoy here, Oodles. Terrestrial Extra says, I nominate Karen Gillan.
Yeah, well, yes. Mwah. Karen Gillan.
She recently became a writer and director,
Yes.
and she's been part of the MCU, done voiceovers, more serious roles, and to top it off, she's British.
Yep.
The girl's got it going on. Gunpowder Milkshake looks fun too.
Yeah.
John Cheatham says, I'm going to shout out Rose McGowan. Obviously a great actor, but more than that has come closest to making Hollywood actually safer for women
Yes.
through massive sacrifice and risk to her own personal safety for years
Oh
and
my
years.
God,
Nothing
yeah.
less than an inspiration.
I agree.
Well, she's had to go through and explain
It's
it.
horrible.
I will say, Helen, reading through the chapter about Me Too in the book, that was so difficult.
Yeah.
So much that I didn't know that it had gone on as well. Just I'd seen the headlines and, detail. No, didn't like it.
Yeah, no, I didn't. It's really hard with that one. I mean, obviously, I wasn't doing the sort of first-hand reporting, so I was drawing on other sources. But yeah, just knowing how much to context really to give to this stuff, and how much to explain, and how much to absolutely not dwell on stuff to avoid triggering people and just, unnecessary upset. So it was kind of trying to put it in the context mostly of the work stuff and mostly of the career stuff, and not obviously there's huge human trauma costs as well, but I was trying to keep it focused on the what Hollywood is doing, and not just what Hollywood has done to all these women, but what Hollywood is doing kind of to itself and to careers. And
It's horrible.
Yeah, it's horrible. It's still not solved, and I think a lot of the people who were aware of this stuff are still in place.
Unfortunately, I think it's going to be
Honestly.
a long road ahead on that one.
Yeah.
The documentary on the iPlayer, the Harvey Weinstein documentary, is brilliant. Really good.
Yeah.
Horrible, horrible man.
I do think that something like psychologically did shift after the Me Too movement, and I think there are consequences, but it's not a clean sweep. There's no board to be cleared. There's no kind of witch hunt or a list, to be gone through and all of these people be removed. There's nothing that clear cut, and I think it's hard to see, but I think there has been some kind of shift of ideas, and I hope that will reverberate and just build and build and build until we get something.
It has to.
Yeah, it does.
Safer.
It does.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to move on from that. Natalie says Sigourney Weaver. Let's remember, she was a strong...
That was my second choice.
Same.
She was a strong, if not the strongest female lead in an action film, not only all the time, but more importantly, the era that women were being played as secretaries, bimbos, damsels in distress. Alien and Aliens were groundbreaking.
Amazing.
She's an outstanding actress, and I love that even in the films they make reference to her being a woman in the... I love that even in the films they make reference to her being a woman in the derogatory sense. Her fuck you attitude to leading men is bussing.
Yeah.
Natalie keeps using young people words. I don't understand.
Do you know the thing with Aliens? So about 5 years ago, me and my wife watched it for the first time. Obviously, I've seen it. And when it first started, I said, guess who's the main character in this? And she couldn't, because at the beginning, you don't know who the main character is. And by the end, it's like, oh, God, what tour de force that is. I love Alien.
I read up just before this pod. I had a quick look again at Sigourney, and I didn't realise that Alien is technically her first role. She just did commercials and a bit of TV work before actually having that role. And she was originally up for Lambert.
Really?
And there was a change of casting last minute, and she got given Ripley, and they swapped it around.
Wow.
Could you imagine if No. And she was another actress. I've forgotten who plays Lambert now. And she's, again, a great actress. But I just don't think that would have worked with her.
Wow.
I think, and it was on. But I think the fact that you don't know she's the lead at the beginning is how they did it.
Yeah.
Really, is how it
They
worked.
kind of like snuck her in. I know you shouldn't say it like that, but they did the snuck her in, didn't they? Yeah. She's strong in Ghostbusters as well, I think.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think of that film because Natalie said then about even with the films where she's been referenced as a woman in derogatory sense, she owns the screen. It's the one she did with Jennifer Love Hewitt. I don't think it's a great film, but I think that she's just proper. She's class in it. Like she's just.
That's Heartbreakers, isn't it?
Heartbreakers, yeah. I was just trying to find it then. I couldn't remember what the name of the thing was. I just
and even when
her in
she's
it.
playing quote unquote a bimbo, like in Galaxy Quest, she just brings so much.
No, I adore
What
that
a great
film.
role that was for
I
her.
adore that film.
Superb.
Look, I have one job on this stupid shit.
I need to
She's the
rewatch
best
that,
thing in
actually.
Avatar as well, and
that.
I don't like Avatar. I don't like.
No one should like Avatar.
I like Avatar.
Oh yeah. We've got one. We've got
Just
one.
the world building.
It's a
I loved
beautiful
it.
film, but no, I don't like it.
Natalie finishes off by saying, my favourite moment, and she's talking about Aliens. She's saying, my favourite moment when the massive bell-end prick that is Carter Burke is about to release a facehugger stuck on Ripley on mute. Ripley says, you know, Burke, I don't know which species is worse. You don't see them fucking each other over for a goddamn percentage.
Yeah. I hate Burke.
Bloody well priceless.
Goddess.
After this role, I think people realised women were more than just objects of fuckability with boobs to sell a movie. We could stack up against Arnie, Stallone and the like. We need more Ripleys.
We do. We do. Oh, God, I love it.
And the problem for a long time was that, they would just say, well, we've got Ripley, so you don't need any others. And it should have, they never, this is the thing, every time there was a woman who broke through, every time there was a woman who kind of proved the myths wrong, they never built on it. They always just sort of treated that as an exception, as an irrepeatable thing.
Yeah, I think it's kind of damning that everyone's always goes back to either Leia, Sarah Connor or Ripley. How long ago were they now?
That's all you got,
Yeah.
That's all you got.
Oh, it's a shame.
Best Boy Kurt Lewin has said, I have to say that I think Keira Knightley is my favourite actress, both for her acting and off-screen activities to promote women in media. She's had some duff films, but perhaps the performance that springs to mind for me when I think of her are Bend It Like Beckham and Misbehaviour, more recently, which is a film that is really good and doesn't get talked about enough.
True, yeah, good film. And I think she's turned into a wonderful actress, actually. I think she's really genuinely great now. And I think we're risking getting to the point where Keira Knightley is not taken seriously enough.
Yeah.
Actually, after being sort of everywhere when she was about 17. But like something like Official Secrets, it's a great performance. It's really, really good.
Cool.
And last up we have Ray. He says, hi, Modern Escapism. Movie production is a group effort, even more so when the movie is animated. As a result, people working backstage don't get the spotlight very often. Galen Sussman is among them. I think that's how I say her name. In 1998, a mistyped command deleted 90% of Toy Story 2's digital assets, and the backup drive was under repair at the time. So the situation seems dire. With merely 12 months before release, there's no way a studio can rebuild the movie from scratch. It seems the only option is to scrap the film entirely, along with its $500 million investment, and maybe sink Pixar in the process. When all hope seemed lost, Sussman, a technical director at the time, stepped up with a complete copy of all the film assets on her personal computer. Turns out, because she didn't want to miss out on the action after her son was born, she created a copy so she could continue to work at home. Alas, Toy Story 2 and all the great stories that came after were saved by this unsung heroine.
Wow.
Some may say this is fortunate result due to coincidence, but I think it's also her professionalism, hard-working spirit, and passion for her job prepared Galen Sussman to become a rescuer of this crisis. As such, I would like to write down the story and pay my small respect to the woman quietly but dutifully supporting the industry that bring us joy just like her.
Absolutely.
I think Toy Story 2 is the best one as well.
It is. Yeah, it's fantastic.
By far the best one. It's the Empire Strikes Back of Toy Story.
It is.
It is. It's fact.
First sequel Tom Hanks has ever done as well, isn't it?
I'm not sure.
I think it was,
so.
yeah.
And then he did the Dan Brown ones, didn't he?
Ooh.
I don't remember those. I don't remember those. I don't think they happened.
No, it's best not to. But yeah.
I mean, your professional opinion, it mustn't have happened, though.
No. Is that them all there, Gadget?
Yeah, that's them all.
Excellent. So it's nearly time to wrap it up. Candy, it's time to do a little bit of socials and let the listeners know what we're doing next week.
Lovely. So you can always visit us, you can visit us on our new website, modernescapism.co.uk. On there you can find a link to all of our socials, media, and our contact details. We've just launched our merch store as well.
Oh, so good.
So good. If you've ever wanted a bedspread with Biggie's face on it, your prayers have been answered.
And everyone wants that.
Well, there's also some Modern Escapism and Dragon's Dream and Scorched t-shirts as well, if you're feeling a bit more sensible.
My wife's ordered one.
The bread spread or the t-shirt?
The bedspread.
All of the above.
If you have any comments, you can either tweet us or email us at modernescapismpod@gmail.com, or you can join us on our Discord server. We're all in there. We're always active, so please join us in our wonderful community for a chat. If you fancy watching and interacting with us live while playing through some games, usually badly, you can find us on twitch.tv/modernescapism. Biggie's currently and continuing to play through Dark Souls on Mondays. How's that going?
Stuck in the catacombs.
Don't you hate it when you're stuck in the catacombs?
Just every Monday.
So to be on brand, Biggie's stuck again. I run a weekly horror stream on Thursdays, and I've just finished Outlast, and I'm starting a new one this Thursday. So tonight, if you're listening on the day it's released, I'm starting Soma.
Oh, you're doing Soma.
Nice.
Yes.
Gadget's currently working his way through Fallout 4 on survival mode on Wednesdays, the absolute nutter.
Pain.
And
Suffering.
I love to watch it, though. I love to watch the pain and suffering, especially in the Fallout world. And Stigger Noodles hosts variety streams throughout the week, so check it. The best way to check on Twitter and you can see us. So yeah, see when we're going.
Stigger Noodles are busy all the time.
We still need to convince Stig to do his VR Phasmophobia stream.
No, I've tried to play it the other day and it made me sick.
It's horrible. Horrible. Don't do it.
The horror element plus the VR stuff just made me feel ill. So
I'll play it with you. You'll be fine. As we've already talked about, we've got our Patreon. That's patreon.com/modernescapism. We've got the 3 tiers: £5 Modern Escapees, £5 for Scorched or £7.50 for the Biggie bundle, which gets you both. Next week's subject is One and Done.
One and Done.
And by that, One and Done. And by that, we mean, what piece of media have you thoroughly enjoyed, but you've got absolutely no intention of ever revisiting again for So
Fast and Furious, but not enjoyed it.
No,
I mean,
she
you
said
have to
enjoy.
enjoy it the first time round.
Yeah, you have to like it. The caveat is you have to have liked it and you just feel like, I don't need to watch that again.
That was enough. So, for example, if it was
I've
too
loved the credits.
harrowing, it might have been a hilarious comedy, but the jokes wouldn't work the second time round. Or if it's a book you read and it was just too long, as always, just let us know by writing in, and we'll include you in next
I have an
week's
idea,
show.
but I don't think Helen liked this one.
Which one?
What's that?
Mother.
Oh no, I didn't like that one either.
Mother. Is that a one and done?
The Darren Aronofsky.
Yeah.
Yeah, it gave me hysterics. Like, I literally- yeah. Like once I realized what the story was and what it was doing,
I liked it.
Like I was weeping with laughter. I don't know if I liked it or disliked it. I just like just the sheer nerve of it
Oh yeah.
blew my mind.
Different.
I could not stop laughing for about 15 minutes. I was crying with laughter. And I did that in Fast 5. Like I cried with laughter, but in a different way to Mother's
Yes.
movie.
As a side note, Biggie won't be joining us next week, so
What?
please save all your love letters to the following week.
Oh my word.
I'm at a gig. I can't help
You're
it.
so cool.
I know.
Next week's episode gets 20%
No,
less
no.
sexy.
Oh, just a quick one, Helen, before we go. Do you want to play a round of 3-fact structure?
No. I mean,
If I'd led with that at the start, you probably would have just hung up on us, wouldn't you?
is that the time? Oh no.
Well,
So yes, if you would like to hear the 3-fact structure, obviously do come join us on the Empire Podcast weekly. But when there's only 3 of us, we don't do it. Ironically, it has to be 4. The challenge is to come up with a movie fact that Chris, my colleague, doesn't know.
wow, is he that good? That's super.
He knows a lot of stuff. We've all been at Empire for way too long. But Chris has been there for a very long time and has a very good amount of general knowledge. Don't tell him I said that.
He won't listen to this.
Yeah, I'll be fine. He doesn't listen to us, for God's sake. He'll be fine. So we have to try and stump him every week. A couple of the things that we've talked about today have been 3 facts on the 3-fact structure. That Greta Cistern was actually one of James's winning facts one week, if I remember correctly.
Excellent.
But that's my least favourite part of the podcast. So the rest is fun. But
Why are you still doing it? I thought it was only just.
I thought so too.
It was just to kind of cover time.
Stig, you'll have to
last year
write
when
in
we
and tell him
locked
not
out,
to do it
when there
anymore.
was less films out, and it was to cover just a bit extra
It was,
time.
yeah, it was. But no, I honestly, when there's only 3 of us on, then we don't, which is a great relief, because otherwise you're just all the time. It's like I know things, but do they qualify as a 3-fact structure kind of a fact that I can present to the group? I don't know. It's very, very stressful. So,
Helen, can I ask? I know Stiggy's been. How are you finding the live podcasts?
oh, they've been delightful. Yeah, they've been really good. We did the London Podcast Festival last month, and it was great. I mean, they've been obviously socially distanced and everything in these times.
Yes.
But it's always so good. We always get such good questions. People are always so nice, frankly, and we are chaotic. So it's really kind. We genuinely don't necessarily always expect people to show up, and then are very grateful and pleased when they do.
I really enjoyed it. I went to the one in York.
Oh yeah, that was
the one that unfortunately the recording got lost. Or something was up with it, so
I'll tell you off mic sometime. Yeah, it was.
I asked a question on that as well, so I didn't get to hear it back.
Oh, Stig, you do a podcast every week. It don't matter. You get to hear yourself.
Yeah, but not unlike a big one like that.
Yeah.
I asked a question about
big stick.
It was the only thing that when the idea first come up that you thought was terrible, but actually turned out to be really good. And I said, like, my example was the recent Jumanji films. When they got announced, everyone was like,
"Oh yeah,
why?"
Love them.
That sounded disastrous. Yeah.
Love them. Excellent. Is that the is that the socials wrapped up there, Candy?
That's the socials done.
What I'm going to do now is first thank Helen for joining us, but I'm going to give her this opportunity to plug her wares.
Oh, thank you. Well, yes. Well, I should mention the book. So that is, as you've correctly pointed out, Women versus Hollywood: The Fall and Rise of Women in Film. So a sort of quick introduction, basically, to the history of women in Hollywood in the past 100 years and up to the present and looking to the future. I'm also doing a tie-in podcast to that at the moment. So it's also called Women versus Hollywood because we weren't feeling very creative that day. So that's running at the moment. It's on the same channel as a podcast I did last Christmas called Bah Humbug about Christmas movies. So if I do that again this year, then the channel name might switch, but I think they're both still there on the same channel. And then, I'm on Empire podcast every week. So come join us as well if you'd like yet more movie chats. I think we're different enough shows. I think it's fine.
Yeah.
We do different things. We talk about the movie news and reviews and stuff like that. And we'll have interviews with people as well. So, I think that's everything.
Excellent.
I'm on Twitter. I'm on Helen L. O'Hara.
We'll definitely put your Twitter handle in our show notes as well. Don't worry about that. And massive thank you. Thank you for Biggie for reaching out and stealing Helen on this Sunday evening.
It's been a pleasure.
I just kept threatening her that I was actually the ghostwriter for all her work.
Right.
She decided that she wasn't going to let that go be revealed.
Shush. You're not supposed to tell everybody. Come on.
And that's an exclusive.
No, she's been amazing. I just didn't want to harass someone of her profession to keep saying,
now you've done it, you've got to get others.
She was brilliant. And that's it.
Again. Just reach out to everybody now. Yeah,
we've all been really excited, especially Stiggy as well, because he's such a fan. And we're all quite a bit nervous as well for having you on.
It's been such a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you so much for keeping up your time. Really appreciate it.
No
and what we're going to do now, we're not going to lock Helen behind a Patreon paywall because that wouldn't be fair. Because we're going to say goodbye to everyone that's not paying for this. We still love you, but start paying. So from us and especially from Helen, good night.
Fairly well. Good night.
Yep.
I started that one by punching the microphone.
Just let it know who's boss. Establish dominance early on. That's so important.
Don't let it smell your fear.